This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Midnight Bisou taking up the lead with a 16th to go. Moving away from Steph being Steph and win the war. Midnight Bisou. Midnight Bisou scores by 4 lengths.
Nyquist at the top of the stretch is the leader. Exaggerator puts a stern test to him, and Denman's Call is running on very nicely, but with 1/8 of a mile to go, Nyquist is still under a hand ride. Exaggerator keeps trying him, but he cannot go with Nyquist, and the champ is back in fine fashion. Nyquist takes the San Vicente.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
And they cut for the wire. Over deliver and Fergo Lynch, and from the outside, win, win, win. And now, win, win, win. Puts them away and does it so impressively. It's win, win, win in front and going away very sharp in the Pasco.
Still many chances here. Shirali up for a fight right alongside Nacho Papa. The classy Sham Rocket has 2 lengths to raise with less than 1/8 to raise it as they come to the final 16th. Here comes Sham Rocket on the outside. Sham Rocket at Shirali. Sham Rocket to the lead. Sham Rocket wins the Sunshine Classic.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. Welcome to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum. It is all presented by TwinSpires, and it is all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. As always, you're listening to the show on Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Bit of a quieter weekend, if you will, at least on the Kentucky Derby prep front, Kentucky Oaks prep front. The big races in California, the San Vicente, Santa Ynez, likely to steal the spotlight here on this weekend program, on this Saturday afternoon. But that doesn't mean you don't have plenty of things to talk about. You have the Keeneland January sale coming up next week. You're going to hear from Tony Lacy, who is the vice president of sales at Keeneland. He'll join me shortly. You're also going to hear from Darren Fox. He's the sales manager at Darley. And Darley and Godolphin, just another banner year for the 5th consecutive year. They are the top breeders in the country. You know, you think about, and my relationship with Darley goes back many, many, many years to when I first started doing radio, 2003. And I got a chance to meet Dan Pride, who was working at Darley, and Jimmy Bell, who was out there. And, of course, they had my all-time favorite horse, Holy Bull, standing stud out there at that time. And you just think about, I knew right away that they were a classy organization. And now to see what they've grown into, and Sheikh Mohammed taking over the farm years ago, and the way that organization continues to reach new heights every single year is really fantastic. The 5th consecutive year that Godolphin's U.S. breeding and racing operation has topped the North American standings for breeders as individuals and among individuals with partnerships. That's a big deal. And they continue to, I mentioned reaching new heights, right? Raising the bar. That's one thing I've always loved about everybody associated with Darley and with Godolphin, is that as much success as they have year in and year out, they're never satisfied. You're always wanting to reach a new height. And that's what makes the great ones great in any sport, in any industry. And you could say the same thing about Spendthrift and the banner year that they had with their stallions. You could say the same thing about Windstar and their program and the way that they continue. Which, by the way, Elliott Walden going to be stepping down and moving on from Windstar. He's been there a long time, CEO. He'll be moving on. And you want to talk about another first-class individual, somebody I've gotten to know over the years, really enjoy having him on this program, enjoy spending time with him, and he's going to be moving on. So we want to wish Elliott all the best. Jerry Duffy's going to take over for him at Windstar, and that's a great fit too. Another first-class individual. And Windstar will be just fine in the hands of Jerry Duffy, but he has big shoes to fill with Elliott Walden. But Darren Fox is going to join me 9 o'clock Eastern to talk about Godolphin and their banner year in 2025 as we continue to look back on the year that was and continue to look ahead. Darren also spends a lot of time, obviously, with the sales of their stallions. So we're going to talk about the success of their stallions and what you can look forward to, a couple of newcomers for the 2026 breeding season. So stay tuned for that. And at the end of hour 2, cool little story. The co-owner and trainer of a horse by the name of Surprisinglyperfect. You may or may not have heard of him. He made headlines yesterday when the press release came out that he was named the claiming horse of the year. I always want to say claiming crown horse of the year. The claiming horse of the year for 2025. Surprisinglyperfect. And he's such a cool story. And when Justin joins me at 9:40 Eastern, you're going to hear the full story. But I think it's really cool that you have a horse here that's an 11-year-old gelding. 11. He went 7 for 13 last year. He earned $94,000 in 2025. And at the end of the season, he made his 100th career start. You don't hear that very often anymore, do you? Here's a throwback iron horse. Races mostly at Turf Paradise and Emerald Downs. Made one start last year, I think, at Albuquerque. And in the press release that was sent out yesterday by the National HBPA, Evans was quoted as saying, "This is like winning the Eclipse Award for a blue-collar horse." The claiming horse of the year. So you'll hear from Justin, and he'll tell that story of being around this horse and keeping him sound, keeping him going. 100 career starts, 7 for 13, 94K in 2025. So all of that part of a very busy program. Also going to spend some time looking back on last weekend's 3-year-old stakes races. And a matter of fact, that's the poll question for you here this morning. I want to know which 3-year-old stakes winner impressed you most last weekend. Was it Strategic Risk and his win in the Smarty Jones? Mark Casse won 2 in that one. Was it My World, his victory in the Jerome at Aqueduct? Or Commandment with his win in the Mucho Macho Man down at Gulfstream? Which 3-year-old stakes winner impressed you most last weekend? And when we get to I Ask the Answer at the end of the program, 10:30 Eastern with Dale and Tim, I will ask them which of those horses was most impressive and which one they see having the biggest impact on the first Saturday in May, if any of them. But of those 3, which one is most likely to be the one that sticks around and is a player when we get to the first Saturday in May? And I want to thank Shane in North Carolina. He submitted that question for Dale and Tim, so I'm using it as a poll question too, because I think it's a great question. Won't shock me if Commandment is the one that's running away with the voting here, because I liked his race. Now, what you have to keep in mind, if you're going to be, I'm asking you which horse is the most impressed you the most. But if we're talking about which horse is going to have the biggest impact when we get to Churchill Downs in early May, maybe it's not Commandment. His win the other day was really good. But that was a 1-turn, 1-mile race, the Mucho Macho Man. Now he has to prove he can do it around 2 turns. That's a whole new game. Can he be as effective, as good around 2 turns? We will find out later in the season. And by the way, Case Clay, who is the U.S. racing manager for Wathnan Racing, the owners of Commandment, you're going to hear from him coming up in just about 6 or 7 minutes from now, right around 8:15. You want to stay tuned for that. He's going to share his thoughts on where he sees Commandment. Does he see him as a legitimate Kentucky Derby horse at this point? I think every 3-year-old that runs a big race at this point in the season is a Kentucky Derby hopeful. But can you view – you don't view every 3-year-old stakes winner, every 3-year-old maiden winner, allowance winner at this time of the year as being a legitimate Derby horse. I think you're hopeful they're going to turn out to be that way. But the reality of it is maybe they're better suited for sprinting. Maybe they're better suited for a one-turn mile. The 2 turns is a different game. Commandment will find that out. We'll see if he can pass that test. And then as the distances get longer, that separates that 1 1/8. When we get to the 1 1/8 races, that really starts to separate some of the contenders from the pretenders. But you'll hear from Case Clay coming up in just a little bit. He took time yesterday to visit with me because of the fact that yesterday afternoon he boarded a plane to head to Australia for the Magic Million sale. Then he goes to Dubai. He's a very busy man, but last week he got to celebrate that win in the Mucho Macho Man by Commandment. So here's what you do. You can go to @HRRN on X. You can go to Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and you can weigh in on this week's poll question. And if you don't do social media, email your thoughts to me, mike@horseracingradio.net, and I'll pass along the results of the poll question later in the show. I'm also going to spend time this morning talking about the NTRA Moment of the Year in 2025. The FanDuel Racing NTRA Moment of the Year. That voting is now open, and that list of potential candidates, if you will, the voting options was released this past week. And every year when this list comes out, I talk about the fact that you need to separate the true moment, the signature event, the signature moment of the year from the race of the year. There should be a differentiation here. And here's I'm going to run through them quickly. There are 11 choices. Here are the 11 choices for the NTRA Moment of the Year. You have Good Cheer winning the Kentucky Oaks, Sovereignty winning the Kentucky Derby, which then, by the way, gave Godolphin not only their first Kentucky Derby, but the Kentucky Oaks Kentucky Derby double, as they own both of those horses, part of their stellar year in 2025. Journalism winning the Preakness. Sovereignty then going on and taking the Belmont Stakes. You had the passing of the legendary D. Wayne Lucas as an option. You have Journalism's Haskell win, Sovereignty's Travers win, Fierceness winning the Pacific Classic, Ted Noffey winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, remaining undefeated as a 2-year-old, Forever Young winning the Breeders' Cup Classic, and Flavian Pratt with that tremendous day when he set the NYRA single card record, riding 7 winners and 10 mounts on closing day of the Belmont at the Big A meet. Those are your 11 choices. And again, I'm a big proponent of separating the race of the year from the moment of the year. And sometimes they're the same, but oftentimes they're not. And I don't think they are this year either. To me, when you look at this list, my vote, hands down, is going to the passing of D. Wayne Lucas, who left us at the age of 89 last year. That, to me, is one, if not the defining moment of 2025. With all due respect to those great horses I was just talking about, Sovereignty, Journalism, Ted Noffey, Forever Young. With all due respect to them, I think when I think about 2025, that was the big headline. That was the story. And again, you're separating. You want to separate the race of the year from the moment of the year, the signature moment of the year. You have arguably the greatest trainer of all time. There are people who would say he is the greatest. And whichever side of the argument you fall on there, doesn't matter. He did so much for the sport of thoroughbred racing. His passing, to me, is the moment of 2025. I don't think it should be a race like the Kentucky Derby win, like the Kentucky Oaks win. But if you are going to pick a race, if you're going to pick a race, how about Journalism in the Preakness Stakes? I mean, the way that he bowled his way, the controversy that race created in mid-May last year. Remember, he had to bolt his way through in between horses. It was a controversial ride by Umberto Rispoli, and there were people saying it was too aggressive. There were people saying, oh, well, if he doesn't make that move, he doesn't win the Preakness Stakes. Maybe, maybe not. If he were to swing his horse out wide, keep him out of traffic, maybe he loses too much ground, but he was much the best. Gosker ran a monster race. But journalism came and ran him down after bullying his way through in between traffic. And then other people came out afterwards. Again, a highly controversial race and ride by Umberto Rispoli. You remember there were people saying that he never should have been in that position to have to make that move in the first place. He got him into too much trouble in what wasn't the biggest field of the year. So to me, if you're going to pick a race, pick the journalism race. That's a moment of the year, wasn't it? And how about combining, and maybe I'm just looking at the historical implications here, but how about combining the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby win by Sovereignty? And I mentioned that gave Godolphin, as owner-breeder, the exclusive Kentucky Oaks Kentucky Derby double, along with their first Kentucky Derby winner. So maybe those two get combined, and the Godolphin historical note should be a selection here. I could live with that. But I think you have to separate race of the year or moment of the year. And again, for me, it's Dwayne Lucas. Race of the year to me goes to journalism and the Preakness because of everything that came along with it. You can go to NTRA.com now to start voting. That winner will be announced shortly when we get to the Eclipse Awards. But a lot of ways, and I'll continue to talk about this later in the program too, there are a lot of ways you can go with this here and some of the other selections, choices that you have to vote on. But let me know your thoughts on that poll question. Again, which 3-year-old stakes winner last weekend impressed you most? You can go to @HRN on X, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. Email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Strategic Risk and the Smarty Jones, My World in the Jerome, Commandment and the Mucho Macho Man. Again, Case Clay, you're going to hear from him coming up momentarily. But before we get to that point, it's time for this week's Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question. Lee Delapina has it for you right now.
Thank you, Mike. This week's Impossible Trivia question is brought to you by Mojo Racing Partners. Get your mojo working at mojoracingpartners.com. What is the name of the 2005 film in which a zebra competes in a race at Turfway Park? And what actor portrays the voice of the zebra? No Googling. We'll give out the answer at the end of the show.
Now get your mojo working. Right around 10:55 Eastern is when we will reveal the answer. First part of that question, I think, is pretty easy. Second part is what makes it really challenging. All right, Case Clay, he knows a few things about challenges, and he overcame a good one with Commandment last weekend to take the Mucho Macho Man. We'll talk to him about that next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Coolmore Stallion Corniche, a $1.5 million OBS April sale topper by Quality Road and a 2-time Grade 1 winner.
But it's Corniche! He's just too good! Corniche wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile!
Voted champion 2-year-old male following his win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, it's no surprise his 72 yearlings sold for an average of over $170,000, with a top-price colt of $725,000 and a top-price filly of $525,000. Corniche standing for only $15,000 at Coolmore's Ashford Stud.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're a quarter of a mile from home. Epic Summer and Thunderchuck now getting into the clear. Commandment, he just bowled his way through now, and he's on to challenge with a quarter of a mile remaining, and Commandment has now made a clear lead. They're an eighth of a mile from home, but this one's over. Under light handling, here's the son of Into Mischief. Here's Commandment for trainer Brad Cox, living up to the odds-on hype. Commandment draws away to win the Mucho Macho Man by 5 lengths. Roger that Dana comes up with a giant try for second ahead of Thunderchuck third. Max Capacity's fourth in 1:38. Edel.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on this Saturday morning. What a performance last weekend. That was Pete Aiello with the call of the Mucho Macho Man at Gulfstream, and Commandment picking up a second consecutive victory, and both of those victories extremely impressive, and they both passed the eye test, don't they? He drew off. He showed maturity. He did everything you like to see in a young horse, and you better take a look at Commandment when you start thinking about the road to the Kentucky Derby. He is owned by Wathnan Racing, and the man who is involved with Wathnan, longtime owner of Three Chimneys, Case Clay. He moved over to the racing manager role after selling Three Chimneys, and he is now involved with Commandment and so many of the other top horses that Wathnan campaigns. And he's with us now this morning here on HRRN. Case, appreciate the visit.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, congrats on the big win. I just said both of his victories in his last 2 starts passed the eye test. Do you agree?
I do. I think for a young horse, he's just a 3-year-old, just 3 races. The fact that he sat patient in his 2 wins and then burst through showed some maturity, mental maturity. So I agree. I do think he passed the eye test in those. The waters are going to get deeper, but so far so good.
I know you love seeing a win in the Mucho Macho Man, but what specifically were you hoping to see from him in that effort?
Well, it's interesting because Brad Cox, he's an excellent race planner, and he kind of pointed out this race as a first start was 6 furlongs, and he came on, he ran sneaky good in that race. We thought, and then progressed up to 7 furlongs on one of the Breeders' Cup days there. We watched it on TV from Del Mar. And so the next progression really was a mile. And he's just kind of been improving according to Brad as he's been training. And the hope was just to get a win. I didn't think he'd be drawing away by 6 3/4 lengths. But Irad, a very patient ride by Irad, in my opinion. And so to answer your question, was just hoping to see a good effort and perhaps a win if we got lucky, and we're very happy to see what he did.
Case, you could have stopped it drawing away, but I love the way you knew the exact margin of victory, 6 3/4 lengths.
Yeah, we take what we can get.
Well, he's ultra talented. There's no doubt about that. What you purchased him from the Keeneland September sale for $500,000 from the TaylorMade consignment. What did you see in him as a youngster that led you to go down that road?
Well, pedigree, really. He wasn't an obvious horse. He RNA'd for 475 at Saratoga a month prior and came back into this sale. And, he wasn't an obvious kind of real beauty contest winner, but, he's by Into Mischief out of a Grade 1 winner. And so at a price, it's funny saying at a price at $500, but, those Into Mischief colts were averaging north of 975. And so, at a lower than average price point, he was a nice enough horse to take a chance on, and the pedigree is awesome. Orb won the Derby, and he's the premier sire, so thought let's go for it.
With that pedigree, are you immediately thinking, okay, if we can just get some black type on his page, with this pedigree, we're looking at a serious stallion prospect down the road. Does that go into your thinking when you're looking at purchasing him?
Wathnan, they're very much a racing organization, and so not really, frankly. Okay. The hope there is the same hope as everybody on that sale grounds, which is to win the Kentucky Derby. It's the dream. So honestly, stallion prospect, if we're lucky enough to get that with one of these horses that Wathnan purchases, that's fantastic. Obviously, that's the dream of all dreams. But more short term, the thought was, can he get 2 turns? Can he be a Kentucky Derby type of prospect?
What gives you the confidence he can get 2 turns? That'll be the next test.
Yeah, that'll be the next test. And so, things can change, but in talking with Brad, we've been discussing the Fountain of Youth as a next target, and it's a bit of a shorter stretch, and so that's kind of the next progression. The Gallop Out, honestly, we didn't know. I mean, what the Mucho Macho Man was, how far could he go? I mean, even in the discussion was if he did well in the Mucho Macho Man, the Saudi Derby was in discussion. We're not going to head there now. That Gallop Out was pretty great. So you never know until you try, but the Gallop Out looked like he possibly can get 2 turns.
Yeah, you mentioned Brad Cox, a trainer. Here's a guy that is a 2-time champion trainer. He has trained nearly 2,800 winners to date in his career, and that number is going to continue to climb. When you're having these conversations about a potential schedule for any horse, and you're working with a guy like Brad Cox, how much of it is his decision? How much of it is your decision and Wathnan's decision?
So it's very much with Brad, a lean on Brad. I think that's one of his many strengths is selecting races. And now Wathnan does like to send some horses to the Middle East. We sent Flood Zone to the UAE Derby last year, and look, Hit Show, was a Wathnan decision, and Brad was great to go to the Santa Anita Derby route to try and get him to qualify. So it is a commiseration, but I very much lean on Brad with because I have high level respect for him on race selection.
You are now in your 3rd season with Wathnan Racing, and as I mentioned, the racing manager here in the USA for Wathnan. Tell me more about your role in that relationship, Case.
Well, I feel very lucky. Ollie Tate is appointed me into this position. Ollie's in Australia, and on a branch, on the tree below Ollie is myself and Richard Brown. Richard handles Europe, and I handle the U.S. And so that's the relationship. And I just feel very lucky to be in the role for purchasing horses privately and at auction, and then managing their racing careers.
I'm sure when your family sold 3 Chimneys back in 2014, of course you stayed on for many years as well. But I'm sure there were a million directions, Case, that you could have gone within the industry. Why Wathnan?
Well, I went out on my own before Ollie called me. I went out on my own in January, and he called me in August, and I didn't sleep that night that he called me because I was so excited. But I do have other clients, and fortunately they've stayed with me. It's interesting how things kind of work out. There's a client in Louisville that likes to race on the grass. I've got a client in New York that likes dirt sprinters. Wathnan wants a 2-turn dirt horse. We are racing some grass horses, but those are imports from Europe that didn't quite get the Grade 1 level over there. So, for example, Heredia came over here and won the Yellow Ribbon. So anyway, there's at the moment there's no conflict of interest because everybody's racing on different surfaces and different distances, so it's working out well.
Commandment is the horse that's in the spotlight right now. Are there others in the pipeline, if you will, that we should be keeping an eye on as we move into this season?
Yeah, keep an eye on Blacksmith today. He's running in his maiden today, but he ran second in the Los Alamitos Futurity to Litmus Test. And Litmus Test won that race well, but Blacksmith was gaining. I'm not saying he would have won the race. He was beaten fair and square by Litmus Test, who's a great horse, but he's one that's he's run a 91 buyer, and he's one to keep an eye on.
And, of course, we're talking about Blacksmith running today. We are recording this interview on Friday morning. As folks are listening to it on the show, it is Saturday morning because of the fact that, Case, you are after we record this interview here on Friday morning, you're boarding a plane. You're heading to Australia to the Magic Millions sale. Then you're going to Dubai from there. You talked about not sleeping when you got the call from Ali Tate. When do you sleep now? Is it only on a plane?
Yes, I do. Fortunately, I sleep well on airplanes. So, I sleep well, and the kids, my wife and our kids are a bit older now, so it's an okay time to travel. I'm glad I'm not doing it when the kids were young, so it's working out.
The cool thing is that as folks are listening to this here on Saturday morning, they're going to know the results of Blacksmith racing on Friday. So we'll keep an eye on that as we move into this. But I mentioned that trip that you're going to have to Australia, then to Dubai. Is that a regular part of your schedule every year now?
Yes, it is. I've managed some mares down in Australia, and we're selling yearlings down there. So I go down there to Magic Millions and the Easter sale each year. And then with Dubai, I'll go in January for the Fashion Friday races. We'll go on World Cup night. And then I'll be going to Doha in February. The team... It's kind of 4 times a year that we can really meet in person and spend, 4 or 5 days together, and that's one of them, and that's for the Amir Sword festival that in February.
Case, you and your family have had the privilege of enjoying so many top moments in the sport of thoroughbred racing, whether it be on the breeding side, the racing side. When you look back on your career in racing, what are some of the moments that are always going to stand out to you?
I'd say recent ones really with Hit Show winning the Dubai World Cup 41-1. That was a great thrill. And then it's also sharing with my father the he didn't quite work out as a stallion, but on Preakness Day we did the deal for Big Brown at noon on Preakness Day, and then flew up to the race and he won that race so well. That one sticks out. And then just going back to when I was in the 4th grade, going to those races, the Slew of Golds races up in New York, and the Marlboro Gold Cup, and the Marlboro Cup, and the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and Woodward, and so I feel very lucky throughout my life to be able to enjoy horse racing and the highs and the lows. Look, there of those ones I just mentioned, there are probably thousands of lows, but it's the great ones that really stick out. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, what do they say? You better have your big boy pants on if you're gonna play in this game, because there's highs, there's lows, and it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster, and it's what makes the wins so special, whether it's a graded stake or really any win is exciting. Case, listen, I really appreciate the visit. Congratulations on all the success that you've had since going out on your own and now with Wathnan. It's really fantastic to see. Safe travels to Australia, to Dubai, and back here to the States, and I'll look forward to catching up with you again down the road. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me. Great to catch up. You got it. Case Clay here on HRRN. Again, Commandment, he looks like he could be any kind, but as you heard Case reference, the next big test, 2 turns. Do we have a horse that'll go 2 turns? Is he a horse that can get us to the first Saturday in May? We're going to find out. But at this point, Commandment certainly looks like he's a major player and one to watch as we move down the road to the Kentucky Derby. Time now to bring you our weekly Legends of the Turf segment, then a short commercial break, and I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
It was a hot, sticky day in mid-May at Pimlico, the suburban Baltimore thoroughbred plant, and a huge crowd was on hand to take in the 81st renewal of the Run for the Black-Eyed Susans, the Preakness. It was 1957, and then Vice President Richard Milhouse Nixon was but one of the vast throng in attendance. Mrs. Nixon, Pat, was to present the trophy, the Woodlawn Vase, to the winning connections. There was a field of 7 3-year-olds going postward to contest the event, run over a distance of 1 3/16 miles. It figured to be a battle between 3 main contestants: Iron Liege, who'd won that year's edition of the Derby a couple of weeks earlier in the Spangles of Calumet Farm; Bold Ruler, who'd gone posted in the Derby as the 6-5 favorite but had run poorly; and Federal Hill, a speed horse who figured to do well on Pimlico's fast track with the sharper turns and short run to the wire. Also in the field were Inswept, who had won the Spalding Low Jenkins, and the Chesapeake, both at Laurel; Promised Land, who had won the Governor's Gold Cup at Bowie, and run second to Mr. Jibe in the Gotham, but had finished third to both Bull Ruler and Gallant Man in the Wood Memorial at Jamaica. Na Hiss was also in the field, but appeared overmatched, although he had won 3 straight allowance races. And Inside Track, who had never faced stakes horses and had been claimed for $7,500 and $12,500. One of the critical factors in the race was the post positions, and the race may very well have been won right at the break from the gate, as it turned out. The inside threesome, Inswept, Na Hiss, and Promised Land were notoriously slow breakers. Iron Liege had the 4-hole, Bold Ruler was 5, Inside Track at post 6, and the pure speed in the race, Federal Hill, on the extreme outside. Bold Ruler was a noted fast breaker, and Federal Hill would have to cross over on the entire field to get to the front, if indeed he could. At post time, Iron Liege was 6-5, Bold Ruler 7-5, Federal Hill 7-1. Eddie Arcaro was aboard Bold Ruler, and when the latch was dropped, he shot Bold Ruler to the front, and as expected, Federal Hill was right there with him. Federal Hill had a half length on Bold Ruler as they went to the clubhouse turn, but Arcaro would not let Federal Hill by to gain a clear lead. That forced Federal Hill to lose precious ground and gave Arcaro and Bold Ruler the fence, so to speak, to save real estate. They ran together on around the turn and onto the backside. Midway down the backstretch, Federal Hill gave up the chase, and it was Iron Liege under Bill Hartack laying third, just off the early fractions, waiting to make one big move. As they went to the far turn, Hartack dropped his mount down a notch and began to move on Iron Liege, but Arcaro would have none of that and cranked Bold Ruler up a notch to continue to hold the length and a half lead. Iron Liege tried again at the top of the straight, but Bold Ruler turned back that challenge as well. Arcaro went to the whip down Pimlico's short stretch and drove Bold Ruler to the wire, a 2-length winner. After the race, Arcaro said he had pretty much given Bold Ruler his head, as opposed to keeping him wrapped up as he had done in the early part of the Derby. Hartack offered no excuses for Iron Liege's effort. Sonny Jim Fitzsimmons, the trainer of Bold Ruler, had used a cunning little trick on Bold Ruler. He had put a piece of string on the bit of Bold Ruler to ease the pressure on his cheek. In actuality, the race had been decided right at the start, for all practical purposes, when Bold Ruler and Federal Hill rocketed from the gate in front of Iron Liege. It all happened on a hot, sticky Saturday afternoon in mid-May at Pimlico, in the 81st Preakness, when Bold Ruler gained sweet revenge for that year's Derby loss.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
My World continuing to chase Balboa, is not cutting the margin yet, and now My World is in pursuit, and Balboa has a furlong left to get, but My World is clearly in pursuit. My World to the outside, these two nose and they brush. My World, Balboa, My World wins the Jerome.
My World, the son of Darley Stallion Essential Quality, added that victory in the Jerome Handicap to his impressive resume. My World picks up Kentucky Derby points, adding the Jerome to his Nashua Stakes win. And that makes him your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Essential Quality. Among new sophomore sires, only Yopon is outpointing two-time Eclipse champion Essential Quality for stakes winners and earnings. Learn more about Essential Quality and all the Darley Stallions by visiting darleymerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Journalism is getting closer now. He's behind a wall of horses. He's looking for a place to go, and he's got nowhere to go. Oh, he bumped hard with Gloriented. In the meanwhile, Gosker's running the race of his life, and Sandman has entered the scene, and he has moved up on the far outside. Journalism is still running on. He's back into second. He might even win it. Here's the wire. Oh, my goodness. Journalism has won the Preakness Stakes in a performance like you read about.
How great was that call by Larry Colmus on NBC? Fantastic. He nailed that one. Journalism nailed it too, and he nailed Gosker right on the wire to win the Preakness Stakes when it looked like he had no chance. That was a special moment in 2025. Was it the moment of the year? Maybe the race of the year. Maybe the race of the year. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch with you on this Saturday morning. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. With you up until 11 o'clock Eastern. Before I get to what's coming up on the rest of the show and talk more about that performance by journalism and this moment of the year, want to let you know, if you haven't heard about it yet, I've talked about Jockeys and Jeans on this program for many years. They raise money for our official charity here on the network, the PDJF, and they do a wonderful job with it. Their event is coming up at Tampa Bay Downs on February 14th this year, and plenty of things happening. They have a golf tournament, autograph sessions. I believe jockey Robbie Alvarado is supposed to be in attendance, among other legendary jockeys. The list of jockeys that show up at Jockeys and Jeans to help support the PDJF and to sign autographs and to meet fans is always incredible. There's so many Hall of Famers that make it there. So they'll have an autograph session. They'll have a handicapping contest too. And it all takes place at Tampa Bay Downs on Saturday, February 14th. You can go to jockeysandjeans.com to learn more about their events and what's coming up, but that's a special one. I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, I think Remy Belloc has actually created a unique poster that's going to be available with tickets, too, when you purchase your tickets. So cool stuff with that jockey. And, again, it all goes to a wonderful cause to help the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund, the PDJF, which we have supported on this program as our official charity for many, many years. All right, still to come, you're going to hear our first edition of Calling All 3-Year-Olds in 2026. That is where Bobby Newman, thanks to our friends at Spendthrift, the sponsors of that segment, ranks his top 3-year-olds on the road to the Kentucky Derby every single week. And we take that all the way through the Belmont Stakes and the Triple Crown. But the first edition coming your way in just a little bit. You're going to hear from Darren Fox, Darley's sales manager. He'll talk about the stallion roster coming up this year. He'll talk about some of the new additions. He'll talk about the success that Godolphin has had, in large part because of those stallions. Tony Lacy is the vice president of sales at Keeneland. He'll be here to preview the Keeneland January sale, which kicks off next week. Justin Evans is the co-owner and the trainer of Surprisinglyperfect, who this week was named the claiming horse of the year in 2025. An 11-year-old gelding just made his 100th career start. We're going to talk to Justin at 9:40 Eastern. 10 o'clock Eastern begins hour 3. It begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance Hanson joins me to give you 3 races to watch and wager on with TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. This week he focuses on Diane Crump. If you remember last weekend, Donna Brothers joined me here on the program to remember Diane, to talk about her legacy. Kurt tells his story about Diane in his Stroll Through Racing History presented by Keeneland at 10:20. You will not want to miss it. And then at 10:30, don't miss that segment either. Matter of fact, don't miss any of the rest of the show. But I Ask, They Answer is always a popular segment here on the program every Saturday morning. Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they'll talk about some of the hottest topics in the sport today. And I'm going to ask them the same question I'm asking you this morning as our poll question. Which 3-year-old stakes winner impressed you most last weekend? Was it Strategic Risk and his win in the Smarty Jones? Was it My World, his win in the Jerome, or Commandment in the Mucho Macho Man? And so far, 60% of HRRN Nation saying it was Commandment. The other 40% coming in on Strategic Risk. No votes for My World yet, and I guess I get that. Short field in the Jerome. Maybe people are looking at that one as kind of a suspect race. Maybe he didn't beat much, but he looked good. It was a good win for My World. And because of that, he's now on the Derby trail. Again, so many of these 3-year-olds at this point in the season, Derby hopefuls. Are they true contenders? We'll find out. But right now, everybody's in the same boat. And that includes a horse like Ted Noffey, by the way, who will be coming back for his 3-year-old campaign. The undisputed juvenile champion from last year. He's going to be the Eclipse Award 2-year-old champion. But he's in the same boat. Everybody, it's kind of like the NFL playoffs that start today. Okay, if you eke into the playoffs because the opposing team's kicker misses a field goal at the end and you get into the playoffs like the Steelers did last weekend. I was at that game, by the way. Fantastic. Listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers this year may not look like the strongest contender to win the Super Bowl, but it doesn't matter. You get into the tournament, and everybody starts with a record of 0-0, and you're just trying to win 4 games in a row to win the Super Bowl. Everybody's in the same boat. It's the same thing with the 2-year-olds. No matter how good you were, no matter how good Ted Noffey was last year, he was the dominant team. He was the Seattle Seahawks, the Denver Broncos. He was the number 1 seed, and he will be the number 1 seed coming into this year's 3-year-old season. He's the one to beat. But he's got the same record as every other horse in there right now. They're all starting at the same point here as 3-year-olds. And Ted Noffey will have to prove that he can continue to elevate his game. I've talked about that many times over the past few weeks. Will he continue to mature, or will other horses, whether it's the 3 horses I'm asking you about in the poll question or somebody else, surely there are going to be other horses that improve enough to get to the same level as Ted Noffey. The key is going to be, does Ted Noffey continue to improve where they can't catch him? But right now, the road to the Kentucky Derby playoffs are beginning, and everybody's at the same level. It's going to be fun to watch over the next several weeks as we make our way down the road to Louisville in the Kentucky Derby. Again, a bit of a slower weekend. By the way, you heard Case Clay in that previous segment talk about when I asked him, hey, which other horses outside of Commandment, which other Wathnan horses should we have our eye on? And he said, keep an eye on Blacksmith, who was running yesterday. We did that interview yesterday, as I mentioned. Blacksmith was running yesterday. He said, keep an eye on him. Pretty high on this horse, too. Well, he ends up finishing 3rd. He was the heavy favorite in a 5-horse field yesterday out in California. He ends up finishing 3rd. It was a bit of a weird trip. He was kind of up close. He dropped back, then re-rallied. And much like I was just talking about, Blacksmith showed it yesterday. He's a horse, may have all kinds of talent. You might be really high on him, but he's still learning. And for whatever reason, things didn't go his way yesterday. Doesn't mean they won't going forward, but they didn't yesterday. But he ends up finishing 3rd. So there's an update on Blacksmith because we were talking about that during the conversation we recorded yesterday. Wanted to make sure I caught you up to speed on that one. All right, so weigh in on our poll question this morning. You can go to @HRN on X. Keep the votes coming. Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or email the show, Mike@horseracingradio.net if you don't do social media. back to that journalism thing for a minute. You heard the call of the Preakness from Larry Colmus coming out of the commercial break. And I said at the top of the show, if you're just joining us and you didn't catch it, with the NTRA Moment of the Year voting now being announced and the choices, the 11 choices now coming out this week, I really believe that race from journalism, if you're going to vote for a race and not for a moment, as I stated earlier, I think the passing of D. Wayne Lucas is the moment of the year in 2025. That's the one I'm going to vote for. I think that's the moment. Probably won't win. People are going to look at the races that are listed on there. Sovereignty winning the Kentucky Derby, winning the Belmont, winning the Travers. Okay, I get it. You might look at the Breeders' Cup Classic and Forever Young. I get it. But I think if you're going to vote for a race, if you're not going to go with a storyline like D. Wayne Lucas, if you're going to vote for one of the races that's offered on there, I think journalism in the Preakness should be the choice. Because of everything that came along with it and the controversy with the ride and the improbable victory after getting in all kinds of trouble, having the bull his way through. Spotting, what did Gosker have? Did Gosker have a 5, 6, 7 length lead? Head start into the stretch? And journalism had to overcome that trouble and then come run him down. And he did it. So to me, moment of the year, something you remember about 2025 that identifies the year. Sovereignty was great. But I think that moment in the Preakness Stakes is a better choice for moment of the year. Again, you can email the show. Let me know your thoughts on that as well. Mike at horseracingradio.net. All right, plenty of things to get to, including our very first edition of Calling All 3-Year-Olds, presented by Spendthrift. That comes your way next, right after this short commercial break. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Did you know? VA home loans are a key to home ownership for those who served.
I would tell anybody who is interested in getting a VA loan to just do it.
For me, the best thing about the VA loan was the simplicity of it. I was expecting, government paperwork, it was going to go on forever, and it just wasn't.
Since the down payment for a VA loan is minimal, we were able to purchase this home and then use the money that we were going to use as a down to actually fix up the home.
And the only way we could do that was because the nest egg that we had saved for the down payment, we didn't have to use because we went the VA route.
This is a wonderful benefit that veterans can take advantage of.
In the military, we make a lot of sacrifices. We're away from our family a lot. And with the VA loan, it's a way that it makes it easier for us to get a home.
To learn more about VA home loans, visit va.gov/home loans.
Dear VetTix, it was nice to spend the night with my daughter and other veterans. It's so humbling to attend an event when you feel appreciated.
I had a wonderful time with my family. Thank you for the memories, VetTix.
Dear VetTix, thank you for a great experience and for your support of the military and veterans.
Thank you so much, VetTix. Our family has gone through a lot the last few years, and this gave us a nice break.
Every empty seat at a concert, game, or special event is a missed opportunity to say thank you to a veteran or a service member. By giving your extra tickets to VetTix, you'll help America's heroes reduce stress, strengthen family bonds, and create a truly happy memory that will last a lifetime. So when you really want to say thank you for your service, give the experience, give the memory. VetTix. Give something to those who gave. For more information on how you can make a difference, go to vettix.org.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're all in line. And they're off.
Spendthrift Farm presents Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Newman.
The calendar is turned. We're now in 2026, and that means we've all started looking down the road to the Triple Crown. There were actually 17 races for 2-year-olds toward the end of 2025 that offered qualifying points for this year's Kentucky Derby, as well as 2 stakes for the newly turned 3-year-olds last weekend. At Oaklawn Park, the Smarty Jones Stakes brought together what looked like an evenly matched field of 8. But Mark Cassie's Strategic Risk proved much too good for the others, scoring by 4.5 lengths. At Aqueduct, Brad Cox's My World got past heavily favored Balboa in the stretch of the Jerome, a race that only saw 4 horses compete. Both My World and Strategic Risk earned 10 Kentucky Derby points for their wins. The best performance by a 3-year-old last weekend might have been the 7-length score by Commandment in the Mucho Macho Man Stakes at Gulfstream Park, a race that is somehow not a points qualifier for the Kentucky Derby, despite it often being a better and more important race than some which do offer points. The son of Into Mischief looks like a serious 3-year-old so far. There are no points qualifiers this weekend, but the points go up starting next week with the Grade 3 Lecomte at Fairgrounds offering 20 points to the winner. I'll be back with this week's top 5 list right after this word from Spendthrift.
A warrior from the start.
Dornock is coming back! Dornock in the Remsen!
What separates the best isn't just talent, it's meeting the moment. Look your rival in the eye and say, not today.
It will be Dornock to win the Belmont Stakes.
And Dornock stubborn! Dornock wins the Haskell!
A world-class athlete made for the fight. That's Dornock.
Standing at Spendthrift, Dornock's first foals are arriving now.
This week's top 5 list of Derby contenders looks like this. Number 5, Commandment, rousing winner of the Mucho Macho Man last weekend, has talent, but needs to start earning points. Number 4, Further Ado, followed up a monstrous maiden win with a nice score in the Kentucky Jockey Club. Number 3 is Mr. AP. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile runner-up is away from training briefly while he deals with a small issue, but there's no denying his potential. Number 2 is Ted Noffey. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner and likely champion 2-year-old of 2025 is the obvious winner book favorite. Look for him to make his next start at Gulfstream in either the Holy Bull on January 21st or the Fountain of Youth on February 28th. And number 1 is Paladin. Looked great winning the Remsen in just his second career start. He's pointing for the Risen Star at Fairgrounds on February 14th next. That's your Calling All 3-Year-Olds segment presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
Now, my thanks to Bobby Newman and to Spendthrift for that segment. You're going to hear that every single week here on the Equine Forum as we make our way closer to the first Saturday in May. And we're going to bring you that segment all the way through the Triple Crown and the Belmont Stakes in early June. Well, the Keeneland Horses of All Ages sale is coming up on Monday and Tuesday. And I'm going to talk to Tony Lacy, the Vice President of Sales at Keeneland, about the January sale. We'll talk about that coming up in hour number 2. So many of you are probably already in town for the sale, but if you're not, you're going to be coming in the next couple of days. When you're there, do not miss your opportunity. And I would call right now. Well, don't call now. They're not open, but call this afternoon. Make your reservations for Tony's of Lexington. You want an incredible meal. If you have clients in town, you want to take them to some place that you can be proud and know that you're going to take them to a place that's going to impress them with a wonderful atmosphere, incredible food. The steak, I'm going to tell you again, I tell you every week, it is the best steak I have ever had in my entire life anywhere. I've been saying it for years. No steak has topped it. It's fantastic. Enjoy Tony's of Lexington. They're on Main Street right behind Rupp Arena. But call today to get your reservations and set up a time to go in and see them and enjoy a wonderful meal in a great atmosphere with wonderful people. All right, hour 2 getting ready to kick off next. It's very busy. 3 guests coming your way over the course of the next hour. Kicks off with Darren Fox from Darley right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of 3 here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, including that conversation with Case Clay of Wathnan Racing, talking about Commandment, you can head back to our website, horseracingradio.net, to check out the podcast whenever you get some time. And not just this show. You can do that with all of our shows. Listen at your leisure on our website and on your favorite podcast platform. So wherever you access your podcasts, type in Horse Racing Radio Network. Follow along with us. Your Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question for this morning, if you missed it when we gave it out at the top of the show, what is the name of the 2005 film in which a zebra competes in a race at Turfway Park, and what actor provides the voice of the zebra? Think about that one. You can let us know your thoughts at HRRN on X. You can post if you think you know the answer, post it on our Facebook page, Horse Racing Radio Network, or email the show, Mike at horseracingradio.net. Challenge yourself. Can you get this one right? Get your mojo working with the Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question. I think the first part of it's easy. The second half is what makes it challenging. Good stuff on this Saturday morning. All right, Darren Fox set to join me momentarily to kick off hour number 2. Tony Lacy coming up right around 9:20 Eastern. And at 9:40, Justin Evans. He is the trainer and co-owner of the Claiming Horse of the Year for 2025. Just announced this week, Surprisingly Perfect. A horse that competes at Turf Paradise, Emerald Downs. I think he even made a start at Albuquerque this year. Going to get a chance to hear from Justin coming up in just a few minutes. Darren Fox joins me now, live from Darley. And what a year for Godolphin again in 2025. Darren, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you, sir?
Doing wonderful. You think about the success that Godolphin has had. Darley, certainly the Stallion's a big part of that. Man, you have to be so proud of everything you and the team continue to accomplish.
Hey, look, I think proud is definitely, the word, to have had a year like we have had. Just incredibly proud of the team, everyone from, all the staff that raise these horses, all the work that goes into the matings, when they come through our operation, when they head off to, their early breaking, the trainers, all the staff at each of the barns where they do, they do their racing. It's a huge team effort, but incredibly proud of everyone involved.
Yeah, Godolphin just a dynamo when it comes to, ownership and breeding. And let's talk about the breeding side for just a minute. We're all looking forward to Sovereignty coming back. Plans will be announced for him as we move over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure. He's going to be fantastic. He was fantastic last year, and he's going to enter this year as the top older horse in the country. But you've got some stallions out here who are just joining the Darley roster this year. First Mission, Highland Falls. Tell me about those newcomers.
Yeah, thank you. Two very, very, very nice first crop horses. We feel like we've been both priced extremely attractively. They're both at $10,000 each. To start with First Mission, he is a son of Street Sense. The Street Sense sire line has been so good to us. We have Maxfield and Speaker's Corner. Maxfield off to a flyer with his, second leading freshman sire. We Speaker's Corner with first 2-year-old. So, the Street Sense sire line, it's looking like it's a sire line that's here to stay, and he even has a grandson at stud in Chancellor McPatrick at Spendthrift. So I think that's one of First Mission's key selling attributes, is that he is, in my mind, the fourth installment in the Street Sense sire line here in Kentucky. So very excited about that. He is, again, a very, very good-looking son of Street Sense. He's out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare. Her name was Elude. She's actually, interesting tidbit, bred on the exact same cross as Rachel Alexandra. So there is a little blend of Medaglia d'Oro in him, but he is just a very, very good-looking son of Street Sense. He walks like a cat. And from a commercial standpoint, all the other Street Sense sons have stamped their stock pretty hard. I think that's one of the key recipes of the sire line. The Maxfields, he dominates his mares. They have a look. The Speaker's Corners, even the McKinseys. So, expecting this guy to follow his paternal half-brother's previous trends and stamp really good-looking stock in his own mold. He obviously was an exciting racehorse. He ran a 96 Beyer on debut, running second to Bishop's Bay. Did come back and win his maiden by 6. In his next start, he came to Keeneland to win the Grade 3 Lexington Stakes, beating Grade 1 winner Arabian Lion, earning a 99 Beyer that day. Finished out his 3-year-old year running a nose second against his elders in the Clark. And then, of course, the following year came back, won the Essex. His big win last year in 25 came in the Grade 2 Oaklawn Handicap. He ran a 109 Beyer in that, and coincidentally, that 109 Beyer makes him the fastest freshman to retire in the last 5 years at 10,000 and under, which is certainly noteworthy. And then one of his best races, too, was running third in a loaded Stephen Foster behind Mindframe and Sierra Leone. I did actually omit his Grade 2 Ali Sheba, which he earned a 106 Beyer at Churchill as a 4-year-old. So, look, he earned $2.2 million, ran 6 triple-digit Beyers up to a 109. He's a lot of horse for 10,000.
Darren, I got to tell you, every time you come on this show, I'm blown away. When you start rattling through the resumes of all of these stallions, are you reading off of a script, or do you have this information at the top of your head?
I mean, look, we have 13 stallions, so it's my job to know it. But look, it's easier when you've lived through it. When you've been to some of these races and you can remember, being in the win picture, et cetera, et cetera. It's certainly you're just going on memory. But I appreciate that. So as you can tell, I love First Mission, his class. You could watch him, and that's the Street Sense R line. They're classy horses. They love to eat, sleep and train, and he is no exception. Just watching him strike a pose, watching him at the walk, I mean, you would watch this horse all day long. So love him. Obviously, our next horse is Highland Falls, son of Curlin, which is hugely exciting, out of, Round Pond, who is an extremely important mare for us, and I think she's going to be an extremely important mare for the breed. He is actually the last foal out of the mare. She's a 2-time Grade 1 winner. She won the Acorn and the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She produced Grade 1 winner Long River. She is the dam of Tyburn Brook, who is the dam of Speaker's Corner, who I just mentioned, and the hugely exciting Knightsbridge, who just won the Mr. Prospector, and hopefully we're looking to a good campaign with him this year. But to talk about his race resume, actually I'll talk about his physique first. So he's 16'2". He's a lovely horse. Like, he is a racy Curlin. I love his shape. He's got good leg. What I love about him is his length of hip, and when he walks away from you, he has a really square hip, like really great definition. It's a hip you're probably more used to seeing at the 2-year-old sales than you would see from a Jockey Club winner. So I think that's a very commercial hip, and that's important for breeders to know. I do think they're going to be commercial. Just a lovely shape. He's going to fit a wide range of mares physically. So again, he's a top physical to go with his pedigree. His race record: broke his maiden on debut at Ellis, going a mile, earning an 88 Beyer. 2 starts later, he won his allowance at Churchill, getting a 98. Came back and won the Blame, going 9 furlongs at Churchill in a tenacious fashion, and then followed that up with a second in the Oaklawn Handicap. And then his big win that year came in the Jockey Club. And look, Arthur's Ride was the prohibitive favourite. Flavian was on board. He got pinged or bumped pretty hard at the start from both sides, kind of like a pinball, but it didn't faze him. Flavien really took the race to Arthur's ride and just kept at his throat latch the entire way. And turning for home, you could just start to see he was just starting to get the better hand and was going the better of the two, and drew off impressively to win by 4 lengths, earning a 104 buyer. That's his marquee win, there's no doubt. Came back last year in 25, won a 1 mile allowance very, very stylishly at Belmont at Aqueduct. Loved that comeback race. And then his second start of the year was straight into probably one of the strongest Whitneys that I can remember, with the likes of Sierra Leone, Fierceness, Wide Barrio. Like, it was just stacked. And I got to say, being in the grandstand, the angle I was watching for about 3 strides, I thought he was going to win until ultimately Sierra Leone came and just got him close home and just edged to a length victory. So, look, heck of a race in your second start of the year against, a really, really top field. Ran third in a messy jockey club, to be fair. I think that's probably being polite. And then, look, he was sitting on a big one going into the Classic. Again, he was working lights out. So a little bit of, what might have been, but such as horse racing. But, he certainly has an incredible resume, and he is so well-rounded. And again, for breeding at the $10,000 level, it's all about the physical. And these two horses have it in spades. So expecting them to have a very, very healthy ROI with their first yearling average in terms of, in relation to their stud fee.
Darren, speaking of first yearlings, 2026, this year that we're in now, we are going to see the first yearlings from one of the most popular horses we've witnessed in decades, and that's Cody's Wish, the 2023 Horse of the Year. Tell me more about what you're hearing from breeders about Cody's Wish, and tell me about these yearlings.
Yeah, so look, all summer, myself and Kate Galvin, we typically go out, and it's kind of like Christmas morning. Each farm visit, we go and see a brand new Cody's Wish foal all last summer. And all last summer, one was better than the next. Just a very, very strong forward, good bunch of foals. Probably one of the strongest groups of foals we've seen from a freshman sire of ours. And so it's fair to say we were anticipating, a strong reaction from the market, but we were certainly blown away with how they were received. Like, they sold for up to 550, 500,000, 440, 425, 425, 400. He was leading freshman sire by average with a $277,000 average. So, and that's only a portion of them that have been to market. There are some serious horses that will still, have still yet to step out at the yearling sale. So it's going to be an exciting year for him and, for the entire story. And it's certainly one that looks like it has some momentum.
Yeah, I can't wait to see those babies on the racetrack, and can't wait to see those first yearlings arriving here in 2026. We've talked about Cody's Wish, First Mission, Highland Falls, who are new to the roster this year. Essential Quality, Frosted, Maxfield, Midshipman, Mystic Guy, Nyquist, Proxy, Speaker's Corner, Street Sense, the remainder of the roster. Tell me about a couple of the ones that really have you super excited.
I mean, I'll touch on the 2 stallions with first 3-year-olds. Essential Quality, again, 2-time champion. What a good racehorse. It wasn't what he did, it was how he did it behind the scenes. Through 2 championship years, he never missed a work, he never missed a race. Probably the soundest horse we've campaigned. And, through 2 championship seasons, he had our smallest vet bill of any horse in training for 2 years running. So it wasn't what he did, which was tremendous, it was how he did it. So we've always said, time and distance is going to be their friend. That's how it has played out as the races have started to stretch out. They've really come to the fore, and in those, races, they're doing their best work late. So, very excited. He's got 20 winners, 3 stakes winners. Obviously, My World won the Jerome and the Nashua. He's pointing to the Withers. There's a couple of unraced horses that the connections have been, pumping. So, look, very excited with him and, with his stamina and soundness as these races stretch out and we get into Oaks and Derby preps. I think they're going to keep coming to the fore. He's been our most popular stallion by season sold this week. We sold 21 seasons in him this week. So I I would have called him a wise guy horse before Christmas. Now he's gone mainstream, so excited about him. And look at Maxfield. They just sold like hotcakes from the get-go. He is an Adonis. He's $5 million horses in his first crop. He was second leading freshman sire. I should say Essential Quality was third. Forgot to add that in. But Maxfield, second leading freshman sire, 23 winners. 4 TDN Rising Stars, which ties Justify and has only been bested by Constitution, who had 5 Rising Stars in his first crop. So that kind of tells you the caliber and quality of horse he's putting out there. Again, a 2-turn, 3-year-old profile to them, so excited for what this year holds. Englishman as a horse is probably his most exciting colt, I would say. He ran 2 ticks off Groupie Doll, 7 furlong track record at Churchill on debut. So really excited to see what that colt can do this year for Sheree. But look, he had a TDN Rising Star in Japan. Magna Victor, another really horse won by the length of the stretch called Denon Bourbon. So we've had a lot of Japanese interest in him this year from breeders over there. So that's been exciting. And yeah, look, he's had 10 black type horses. Excited with his profile. I think he's sitting on a big year also. And then look, in that bunch, I'd be remiss not to mention Nyquist, who is at the top of our roster. Standing a second season at 175,000. He had 4 Grade 1 winners this year, 10 Grade 1 horses. His Grade 1 winners were obviously Cavalieri in the Beholder Mile, Argos in the Summer Stakes, in the Oaks, Velocity for Eclipse, and then of course Nice getting his much deserved Grade 1 win in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. But look, he's an elite stallion. He's one of the best stallions in the country. Where he shines, 4% of his starters win or place in Grade 1 races, and to me that is staggering. Medaglia d'Oro is second, who's been pensioned. He's in the 3% range, but his closest peers are in the 2% range. So I say this a little tongue-in-cheek. If you like Grade 1 horses, then Nyquist is the sire for you. So look, he's been a dream. He continues to go from strength to strength, and versatile. Obviously has an affinity for the main track. But hopefully our next goal is to put a son of his in the Stallion Barn, and hopefully we can do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, visiting with Darren Fox from Darley, talking about the Darley Stallion roster here for 2026. And as you can tell, that the success that those stallions have had and are going to continue to have is the proof's in the pudding, as they like to say. And we're seeing that with the Darley Stallions. If you go to DarleyAmerica.com and you click on the Stallions tab, it'll pull up all of the stallions that are standing at Darley, and you can read through their pedigree. You can read through their race record. You can see videos and highlights and all of these types. It's a wonderful website. But, Darren, when you pull up that page, at the very top of the page, it says, which stallion for which mare. It's the choice that decides destiny. And I love that. How do you decide which stallion is right for a certain type of mare, or which mare fits which stallion?
It's a great question. We definitely have, our own mating analysis that we use. We have our own theories on what certain sire lines work with certain stallions. There are certain sire, occasionally there might be a broodmare sire line we might look to avoid because it hasn't been that fruitful. But for the most part, you're just looking for the right profile of mare. Obviously, the breeder is a big factor. We lean on them for their physical description of their mare, and as they're describing their mare, if there are certain buzzwords with that stallion, we might go, that might be cause for pause. So you're trying to get the right physical matchup, because ultimately in the sales ring on the racetrack, you're trying to get the best physical, which benefits everyone. So that is a huge part of it. Obviously the pedigree play, the mating aspect. And then, it just depends on the demand on the horse. The horses that are super popular, the bar is a little higher in terms of the caliber of the mare. So that is an element as well. But, ultimately with 13 stallions, ranging in price from 7,500 to 175,000, we have a stallion for every mare out there. It's just a matter of getting, the right fit for that mare. But it's a fun process. Love getting to know breeders and develop the relationships, and it's a two-way street. Obviously we can't do this without them, and their opinion. In every case, breeders have bred a lot more or have bred way more good horses than I have. That's poor English. So we definitely trust, and it's a collaborative effort to try and arrive at the best decision. But the rewards are great, and high-fiving and sending congratulatory texts after successes and wins is one of the more fun parts of the job, and it certainly it never gets old.
Darren, Monday is the 25-year anniversary of the passing of 1978 Triple Crown winner Affirmed. And I remember when I first moved to Kentucky, I stopped out to John Bell Farm. I have a picture with Affirmed, also my all-time favorite horse, Holy Bull, who was there. That he was a special horse, and John Bell Darley continues to be a special place for all of these stallions.
Thank you so much, Mike. I would like to add on Nyquist that tomorrow night at the TCA auction, there is an NG season to him with the free breed back for sale. 100% of the proceeds will go to charity. So anyone who's looking to get a season to Nyquist, this is likely your last chance. So come on by and support a great cause in the TCA.
Darren, appreciate the visit. Happy New Year, and all the best here in 2026.
Mike, thank you so much.
All right, Darley sales manager Darren Fox here on HRN. When I come back, we'll talk about the Keeneland January sale, which begins this week. I'll do that with Tony Lacy, the Vice President of Sales at Keeneland. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
And Nitrogen, looming large with a quarter of a mile to go, takes the lead away from Lacara as Good Cheer angles to the center of the racetrack. Then Margie's Intention, they're coming to the 8th pole, and it's Nitrogen in front by 2. Good Cheer is trying to run her down. These are the two. Nitrogen still full of run with a 16th to go. She's shifting about, but maintaining the lead while going wide. Good Cheer opts to go inside. Nitrogen and Jose Ortiz to win the Alabama, presented by Keeneland Sales. Good Cheer was second, Margie's Intention third, and Lacara finished fourth.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. That is Frank Miramati with the call. Nitrogen, so good in 2025. And she is among the finalists for this year's Eclipse Awards in the 3-year-old filly division. Her dam, Tiffany Case, set to be offered at the Keeneland January sale. And that figures to be a moment that could create some fireworks among the 1,097 horses that have been cataloged for the 69th edition of that January Horses of All Ages sale. Again, it begins on Monday, and it takes place Monday, Tuesday, the 12th and the 13th of January. And Tony Lacy is the Vice President of Sales at Keeneland. He joins me now. Tony, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Great to chat.
Yeah, looking forward to this sale. And we just heard the call of Nitrogen, and Tiffany Case, she's among the stars at this year's January sale.
She's a great addition to the sale, and we really appreciate John and Len Green's support of Keeneland. They've been a great partner. We had a partial, a reduction sale for them in November that went extremely well, and I think they felt like this was a great opportunity for them to sort of continue that trajectory with Tiffany Case, which I think will, January, I think it will be an extension of the November sale.
Yeah. She's in foal to Not This Time, and we know how good Not This Time has been already in his stallion career, and I'm sure more to come. But you take Not This Time and you take Tiffany Case, you put them together, you might have something special here that folks could latch onto and take a look at here at the January sale.
Exactly. The one thing the market has been sensitive to is sort of mares that might have been older and sort of exposed, even though they might have had a runner at some point. One of their progeny being a good runner, they want currency in the family. This Tiffany Case is a mare with, she's young. She's only had two foals to race. They're both stakes winners. Obviously, Nitrogen is a sensation on both surfaces. So it's when you thought that she couldn't get any better, you sort of question whether she might be better in one rather than the other. So it's very exciting. I think the demand has been there all through the last number of years, but especially this year for quality. And once you present quality in front of the market, you get rewarded. And she's a unique offering. She's one that. I think the Greens have curated a wonderful family. They've done a wonderful job with this mare and obviously Nitrogen, and have created an amazing program. And it'd be great. It's great for somebody to plug into that right out of the gate and have a foal by Not This Time, as you say, in the near future.
One of the other stars of the January sale figures to be Simply in Front, who is a Grade 1 winner, $2.8 million earner, going to be cataloged as a broodmare prospect. Tell me more about Simply in Front.
I think this is again, this is a young mare, obviously a broodmare prospect now, but she won the Grade 1 with us here in October. So it's really nice for us to be able to sort of meld both racing and sales together. Richard Hogan for Coldbrook Farms. It's just really, really nice, wonderful people. And the fact that you do it by Summerfront has been such a prolific race mare. Summerfront gives you so many opportunities to cross with from obviously by Warfront himself. It opens up a lot of opportunities as far as your what to breed to. Obviously a Grade 1 winner, they don't come up every day, and having a Grade 1 winner like this in the January sale is wonderful. Abel Tasman was probably a sort of more recent Grade 1 winner that we sold, and that worked out extremely well. So yeah, it's really good, and I feel like the market has been excited about the catalog. We've gotten a lot of good feedback in general about the quality, the diversity, the fact there's some really quality broodmares and broodmare prospects, but also the short yearlings. I think what we had in November was probably we ran out of horses before we ran out of money, and this is where we see people taking advantage of the fact there's still quite a bit of money not spent, and hopefully that the market meets the demand and expectations from the sellers.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think when buyers think about purchasing a yearling at Keeneland, it comes to the September sale, and it's first and foremost in their minds. But there are 100 yearlings by the top 10 first crop sires by weanling average in 2025. They're going to be offered at this Keeneland January sale, and one of those sires is Cody's Wish. I just finished a conversation in the previous segment with Darren Fox from Darley, excited about his first yearlings, and so many other top sires represented.
And that's what's really exciting. I think we're in a little bit of a golden era of a lot of really quality young sires that have gone to stud in recent years. Cody's Wish being an incredible example. I think people are very excited about his progeny. They've been well received so far, and obviously what he did on the racetrack was is nothing but remarkable. So I think there is a quality from start to finish, and again we look at the young stallions, the stallions that just retired. But then we look at the young stallions like Maxfield and others like that have just been doing nothing but amazing things right out of the gate. And so there's there's plenty to choose from, and plenty of blue sky when people are looking for, short yearlings. What fits the mold? Whether they're going to pinhook end users. We saw end users being a very much of a big factor in the weanling market in November, and I suspect it will be the same thing here as well. Pinhookers are really looking to reload. They had a really good September and yearling year overall, and being able to come up and they're hungry for inventory, and so I think that sets up for a very vibrant marketplace over the next few days.
Tony Lacy, Vice President of Sales at Keeneland, joining me here on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Tony, so often when folks open up social media or they go to whatever it is, TDN, Blood Horse, Pollock Report, they see headlines, and it's not always the most positive storyline in our sport. But when you look at the horse sales, whether it be at Keeneland, Fasig-Tipton this past year, OBS, the numbers continue to be very strong. And you talked about how you almost ran out of horses before you ran out of money in November. What does that say about the future of the industry as a whole?
I'm a big believer that I think we're notorious for looking at the negatives, and we have to be very aware of our challenges. But I'm also one that goes back and looks at the articles from 30, 40, 50 years ago. We're dealing with a lot of the same problems, and they will constantly evolve. So those are ones that are not going to go away. And no matter what sport or what activity you're speaking about, everyone has got its fear about the future and what the challenges are and how do we remedy these. We've got them, and we're a global industry. That is something that's very factual. We've got a global marketplace. I think what we're seeing is an awareness and a sort of a renewed appreciation of the sport. I think a lot of the headlines, yes, there's challenges, there's regional problems, there's political, headwinds when it comes to whether it's decoupling in Florida or some of the challenges in California. But we in Kentucky had some of those challenges not that long ago. I think it's imperative that we work as an industry to try and solve them for these regional areas, but also knowing that this sport, when you see it on the ground and see what the people that are getting involved, we saw a large number of new people getting active in the industry from a racing perspective, also encouraging to see new people buying brood mares. I know we talk about the foal crop and decreasing numbers, and that's a factor. We have to look at various different variables that are a factor in that. We've got a challenging, the cost of breeding horses has risen, as in whether it's cattle or whether other activity or any business, the costs have risen. So that people have sharpened their pencil from that standpoint. When we talk about the labor challenges, a lot of farms that I've seen that are very well established, the owners should be in a stage of life where they shouldn't have to work as hard, and they're working harder than ever because that's the only way they can keep it going. So there's many different factors in that sense. But in saying that, I think we always evolve. We always find a solution. And I think we also have seen a concentration of quality in the breeding programs to where it's not really it's not viable to breed a mediocre horse, and you're not going to get rewarded in the sale ring. And quite honestly, I think it's not unhealthy in many ways, because we can grow the sport from a solid foundation of quality, understanding what really works. I think when we reward mediocrity, that's when we dilute the product, and I think it's difficult to sell something that is not of a certain standard. As an industry, we have challenges with obviously with sports betting, predictive markets, predictive wagering, just other activities that gains their attention. We have to be proactive. We have to look at what works in other industries, what works in other sports, be flexible, be open to change, and I think that will only open doors to us. We're in a very vibrant sport when you look at it from a global level. We're in if we look at it in a regional and domestic perspective all the time, we sometimes lose the focus on we're in an industry that is very, very dynamic, and it's had challenges for many years. They're just new, and we have to be very collaborative and work optimistically towards a productive end.
Tony, you're entering your 5th year as the Vice President of Sales at Keeneland. How much have you and the team had to be proactive and adapt to the changing environment over the course of the past 5 years?
Well, it's one of those things where you've sometimes some of the decisions you make are sort of people question you, and you say, why are you doing that? And that's crazy. Well, we have never done that before, and that's the culture I think we've sort of developed internally over the last few years is like, why haven't we? If we haven't done something before, why? Why is that not been done before? And how can we create a pathway forward? Because we can look at tradition and we've got to grab onto it. Keeneland is very traditional entity in the way people look at it. But when you look at an organization like Augusta, something that it comes to golf, people have equated us to Augusta and Wimbledon, as far as sports and the custodians of a legacy. But both have evolved very, very much in a modern fashion without losing its integrity in upholding the sport and also in upholding their traditions. And we've looked at ways of how we interact. The customer service has been our primary focus, I would say. Outreach, listening, reacting to our customers and understanding what they want and being very open to change, but also understanding that one change can have a domino effect across other factors and have a negative it could be negative to other areas. So we have to look at it at a 30,000-foot level all the time while listening to each party's challenges and needs. So it's never going to change, and I find it incredibly rewarding when you see record sales that we've had over the last 5 years, year over year. And the challenge is to try and keep this going so we can keep these family farms in business, so we can get more people involved in the sport, to where it's fun, it's viable, it's something that it's far more than just a transaction in the sales perspective. It's entertainment, and it's something that people get a buzz out of, and because that's what it is. It should be. It has to be fun again.
Yeah, it's an interesting balancing act when you talk about the tradition and then trying to make changes to improve the product and listen to your customers as well. Tony, what are a couple of one specific change that you and the team have made over the course of your tenure as Vice President of Sales that have led you to this success year in and year out with the sales? Tell me about one of those changes.
I think stabilization of the September sale, sort of, I think that is one thing, because people want consistency. That was one thing that people, they want change, but they don't want anything to change. So it's sometimes you come under a lot of fire for something you've done or not done, and they question you. And sometimes, yes, you're taking a risk, and sometimes risks are ones that have implications, so they better come through. But also you have to work forward with confidence. And I think when everybody was saying, trying to batten down the hatches after COVID, we got to work forward with confidence. And that's giving our customer base the understanding that we're here. We're here for them, and we're here to sort of be in the trenches with you. And that's something, it's a cultural thing. And I think that's something that we have to try and instill the understanding with our customer base, whether buying or sellers, that we're here for you. We understand. We're not trying to be an independent person just making money, because we give it back to you one way or the other. That's the mission of Keeneland. So it's trying to uphold the traditions of the sport and have the integrity that is not necessarily, it may not be beneficial to Keeneland specifically, but it's the right thing to do. And I think trying to maintain an even keel on that perspective, I think is one of the biggest challenges, because we do it collectively, not just from sales, but on the racing side, the philanthropic angle, side of Keeneland, and also trying to be a flag bearer and a leader in what we do, because our motivations are very much principle based as opposed to profit driven or ROIs, and I think that's very unique, and it's one that I think we're feeling very rewarded by.
Tony, always a delight to catch up. Again, Happy New Year. All the best with the Keeneland sale here in January and moving forward with the other sales. I'm sure we'll talk down the road, but enjoy Monday and Tuesday. It promises to be a fantastic couple of days.
We look forward to it, Mike. Great being on, and best of Michelle and the team.
You got it, my friend. Again, that sale coming up Monday, Tuesday at Keeneland. In every session, each of those sessions begins at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can watch it at Keeneland.com as well if you want to live stream the auction. If you can't be there, 1,097 horses catalog for that 67th renewal of the January Horses of All Ages sale. All right, coming up next, I'm so excited for this next segment. Justin Evans is the co-owner and trainer of a horse by the name of Surprisingly Perfect. You may not know the name, but you will in just a few minutes. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Coolmore Stallion Corniche, a $1.5 million OBS April sale topper by Quality Road and a two-time Grade 1 winner.
But it's Corniche. He's just too good. Corniche wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Voted champion 2-year-old male following his win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, it's no surprise his 72 yearlings sold for an average of over $170,000, with a top-price colt of $725,000 and a top-price filly of $525,000. Corniche standing for only $15,000 at Coolmore's Ashford Stud.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Surprisingly Perfect, chasing in third along the inside. Then on fire, Dirt Road Red next up the outside. Elegant Boy follows. They round the turn and run for home. Oh, what a rush, and Dynamic Secret now takes the lead. Deep stretch they come, and here comes Surprisingly Perfect on the attack as well. In deep stretch now, battle for the lead. Dynamic Secret on the outside, but there goes Surprisingly Perfect racing on by. Surprisingly Perfect to win at a length. Dynamic Secret was next.
The voice of Tom Harris at Emerald Downs with the call of that claiming victory. August 22nd of last year for Surprisingly Perfect, who was so good. As a matter of fact, so good that Surprisingly Perfect has been honored as the claiming horse of the year for 2025. He's 11 years old. He recently made his 100th career start. Sensational. And now you get to hear from his co-owner and trainer, Justin Evans. Justin, appreciate the visit, my friend. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me on this morning.
What a year. Okay, I said earlier that folks might not know the name Surprisingly Perfect. They will after this conversation. What makes him so special?
Oh, he's just I tell everybody, I said, he makes you want to be a racehorse trainer. I mean, there is so many great things about that horse. It's tough to pick out one, but his professionalism, and he just brings it every time. Every time you lead him up there, you have confidence that, he's going to bring his A game. Very few times does he, if things don't go his way in a race or something, but he overcomes it. He brings it every day. He's just your blue collar. He's just a success story in horse racing. I mean, he's what everybody wants to have at one time in their life if you're in the horse racing business, for sure.
You received a phone call this week from my good friend Eric Hamelback, who is the CEO of the National HBPA. He told you that he was going to be the claiming horse of the year in 2025. Tell me about getting that call.
Oh God, I was surprised. Really, I hung up the phone and I had goosebumps. You know, I was like, I got the text and started reading it. And then I called him back, and it was just such an honor because I told him, I said, it's like the eclipse for your everyday horses, man. So to have that honor and have so many great people in the industry and so many big names in the industry in the HPBA vote him, and when he told me it was like a unanimous decision for him to win, it was just so special because this horse deserved it. You know, he really deserved it. I mean, the career that he's had, the longevity that he showed, and just how special he is to everybody that's around him. He's a fan favorite at Emerald Downs in the summertime. He's two-time claimer of the meet, first horse in Emerald Downs history to be two-time claimer of the meet 2 years in a row. But just everybody that's involved with him, from the grooms to the gallop boys to the jocks that ride him to me and my family, he's just been such a blessing, just such a blessing.
I'm so glad you bring up the team and the grooms and the exercise riders, because so often that aspect of horse racing gets overlooked. It takes a village. I always say that. There are so many people that help a horse be successful. Tell me about a couple of those people, Justin.
This horse is he's been great to us, but he's had exceptional people around him, from the gallop boy that gets on him every day, Art Reese. He's been with me a long time, 7-8 years now. He's got on that horse every day that he goes to the racetrack, and he's I always say he's no picnic to gallop in the morning. I mean, he's tough. He brings it all out there, so it takes a really good hand to work with him in the morning. And Art's done a phenomenal job. He's had two really great grooms in Knowlton Hamilton and Christina Strickland taking care of him. They've groomed him. Knowlton had him the first time I ever had him when he won 5 in a row, and then Christina groomed him the last 2 years in Emerald and Turf Paradise. My sister Tracy Evans, she's in charge of kind of spoiling him, and then especially my daughter Addison. We go through about 25 pounds of Mrs. Pasture's cookies a month because those are just allotted to him. So he makes every day special. I mean, he just really makes every day special. He's just one of those that you can't wait to get there to the barn in the morning and see his head sticking over the webbing waiting for you.
Have you had him from day one?
No, you know, it's a funny story about that horse. I went to the horses, I believe it was January, Keeneland Horses of Racing sale years ago when he was a 3-year-old, and a really good friend of mine, Dick Capalucci, we were here in New Mexico, and he said, hey, if you see something out there you like that you're not going to buy, find me something. So I called him and I said, hey, this horse, he's had one start, you know, Woodbine and stuff. I said, this horse looks like he'd be perfect for you. So he said, yeah, buy him. So I bought him for him, and I bought some other horses back there, and we all shipped him back to New Mexico together. And then we call him Flacco, but Dick Capalucci had him, and he ran him and did some good with him, and then lost him through the claim box. And then we were on COVID in New Mexico, so everything shut down over here. So we made the move to Turf Paradise, and a lot of New Mexico trainers came from New Mexico to Turf Paradise that winter, and he was in a 6250 claiming race. And I thought, you know what, I'll take a shot on this horse. So I claimed him, and he got great. He won 5 in a row. I mean, he went all the way up from I think I ran him back for like 8,500 all the way up to he won a wide open allowance race going 1.25 miles out there. But he won 5 in a row. And then some Canadian guys came to me and said, hey, would you like to sell that horse? And we were going to Arizona Downs in Prescott that summer, and I sat down and had a hard talk with my wife, and I said, well, you know, should we sell him? What if we get up there to Prescott and he doesn't like the track, you know? I mean, what if he doesn't get to run that much? So it just seemed like the right thing to do. We hated it, but financially it was the right thing to do, so we sold him. And then he made his way through a couple different barns and back to New Mexico a little bit, Canterbury. back to New Mexico, and then a guy claimed him in New Mexico and brought him to turf and ran him. And I called my partner, Jeff Racuzzi, and I said, you might think I'm crazy. I said, I know 10,000's a lot for a 10-year-old, but I said, I love this horse. And we had him. I said, let's take a shot. So Jeff said, yeah, let's get him, and then the rest is history. He went on a win spree in Emerald that summer, came back to Phoenix, had a huge meet in Phoenix last year, went back up to Emerald this summer and dominated again. So I think all in all, I mean, in a couple of different tries with him, I think I've won like 14 races with him in 2 different campaigns.
Wow, what an awesome story. Now 11 years old, he went 7 for 13. He earned $94,000 in 2025. Tell me a little bit more about that campaign and how special that was.
He's a horse for course, and he likes Phoenix, and he likes Emerald, and so this past year, he ran in. He just had a couple of bad beats. I mean, he never really run a bad race in Phoenix. He was second a couple times, but to good horses, to really good horses, And then he broke through and he went a couple in a row there. And then he loves Emerald, so we got him back up to Emerald, and he was my first starter at Emerald this past summer and my first winner right off the bat. And then he just, if you just kind of pick his spots for him and put him where he can win. He makes it happen. I mean, like I say, he rarely runs a bad race. I mean, he'll get in trouble once in a while and can't overcome it, but if he gets the opportunity where he can have that run in when he turns for home, it's going to take a good one to beat him to the wire, because he's one of those horses that he puts it all out there, and God love him. He's stayed real sound, and he's a beautiful horse. He's nothing flashy, but he's just beautiful. He's a great big horse, big heavy horse, and holds his weight real well. And like I say, he's just a pleasure to do anything with. My son's got a little game that he plays with him. He can be in the back of the stall or in the corner eating his feed bucket, and if you play the call to the post on your phone, he just runs to the front of the stall and sticks his head up just as high as he can get his head up in the air, looking to see where it's at if it's his time to go. So he makes every day special, man. He really does.
Justin, that's fantastic. Justin Evans, the co-owner, trainer of Surprisingly Perfect, the 2025 Claiming Horse of the Year. Will we see him back as a 12-year-old this year?
He's going to make our plan. It's going to be a sad day for us, but we're going to run him on Tuesday in Turf Paradise, and we've kind of made the decision that that'll be his final start. He doesn't owe us nothing, really. We owe him, so it'll be an emotional day for all of us. But we've got a little Turf Paradise has been really great. Their social media team, and then Vic Stauffer, the announcer, and everything. We've got a blanket made for him and everything. So he's in a spot. I think he can win. Hopefully he wins. But win, lose, or draw, we're going to bring him to the winner's circle and throw that blanket on him for the. I get kind of emotional talking about it for the last time. So it'll be a tough day for us all.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. But, boy, what a horse and what a story and what a ride Surprisingly Perfect has taken Justin and all the connections on throughout his career. Justin, congratulations. All the best on Tuesday. We'll be watching, and let's send him out with a victory.
Yes, we're planning on it. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for bringing this up for him. He deserves it. Thank you so much.
You got it. Justin Evans here on HRRN. When I come back, I'll take a look at a couple historical dates in racing history, tell you what's ahead in Hour 3 here on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
All over America, people are taking the National Radon Test. Have you? Excuse me, have you heard of radon?
Is that a gas?
Is it something that comes up out the ground or something?
Well, it's like poison gas.
Something dangerous that you're supposed to check on to make sure it's not in your home.
Now it's your turn. Answer true or false. Radon is a radioactive gas. True, radon is a radioactive gas. True or false? The Office of the Surgeon General recommends that all homes be tested for radon. True, your home should be tested.
I didn't know that, no.
True or false? Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. True.
True, I didn't know that.
Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. Answer true or false. Homes with radon problems can be fixed. True. Homes with radon problems can be fixed.
So what do you do about it? I'm going to dial the number and call.
1-800-SOS-RADON.
If I don't take care of it, nobody else will.
Keep your family safe from radon. Call now.
1-800-SOS-RADON.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
My doctor said I could use something called a biosimilar. Then she told me what it is.
A biosimilar is a type of biologic medication. Just like brand name drugs have generic versions, original biologics can have biosimilars.
So I asked what the benefits are and if they work the same.
Biosimilars have the same safety, effectiveness, and quality as the original biologic. They also offer more medication options at potentially more competitive prices.
My doctor said I could learn more at fda.gov/biosimilars.
Check out the all-new HorseRacingRadio.net. All the same great horse racing radio content in a new, easy-to-use design. Listen to all of our shows streaming live or access the replays anytime. See our schedule, sign up for our newsletter, download our latest podcasts, and so much more. It's all on our website at HorseRacingRadio.net. That's HorseRacingRadio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
The pace is increasing as they come to the head of the stretch. It is still affirmed as they come to the quarter pole. He's holding on to a head lead. Alidar is outside of him and challenging that lead. The two are heads apart, and Alidar's got a lead. Alidar put a head in front, right in the middle of the stretch. It's Alidar and Affirmed battling back along the inside. We'll test these two to the wire. Affirmed under a left-hand whip. Alidar on the outside driving. Affirmed and Alidar heads apart. Affirmed's got a nose in front as they come onto the wire.
Yeah, he did. Affirmed always had that nose in front, didn't he? Alidar just born in the wrong year. Special call from Chick Anderson. January 12th, 2001, Monday, the 25-year anniversary of Affirmed being euthanized. The 1978 Triple Crown winner was euthanized at the age of 26 due to chronic musculoskeletal problems, and a very special horse. He'll be remembered on Monday for sure. Tomorrow, January 11th, 1950, the anniversary of 5-year-old Citation returning to racing at Santa Anita Park. He was sidelined by injury since December of 1948, so 2 years. He was sent off at odds of 3-20 and won easily over a sloppy surface to log his 16th consecutive victory. His winning margins for those races totaled 59 lengths. Yeah, Citation was something else. And again, that anniversary tomorrow, January 11th, 1950, is when that occurred. Those are historical dates in racing history as they applied to this particular weekend. So much fun with Justin Evans in the previous segment, wasn't it? I mean, you want to talk about what this game is all about at its very core. We spend all kinds of time talking about the Derby horses, the Oaks horses, Grade 1 winners. Rightfully so. Those are the elite horses. But how about what Justin has enjoyed with Surprisingly Perfect, this ride that this now 12-year-old has taken him on? And you heard him get choked up at the end of that conversation when he started talking about Tuesday being his final career start, and they have a special blanket and Vic Stauffer, the announcer, involved in this ceremony to send him off. Let's hope he goes out on Tuesday with a victory. Let's hope he can find a way to get to the winner's circle there. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be special. But at its very core, that is the storyline that so many people in our game experience, or at least hope to experience, when they get involved with racing. Not everybody becomes a Super Bowl champion, a World Series champion, an NBA champion. Not every team, not everybody, not every athlete can win the Stanley Cup. How many athletes spend their entire career chasing the Super Bowl, chasing the Stanley Cup, chasing a championship, and never get there? That's why it's so special for all of these professional athletes when they have an opportunity. Well, that's what the Kentucky Derby is, right? That's the Super Bowl. That's the World Series. That's the Stanley Cup. But there are very few who achieve that level. Far more people experience what Justin and his family and his team have experienced with Surprisingly Perfect. And he reached the Super Bowl level with a claiming horse when this horse was named Claiming Horse of the Year. Even that is something that not everybody gets to experience. But it's what everybody in this game is chasing, and Justin summed it up perfectly. These horses in our industry mean so much to so many people, and the amount of time spent by grooms and exercise riders and trainers and assistant trainers and breeders making these horses what they are so that we can all enjoy them is pretty remarkable. We're going to post that interview on our social media pages later today as our interview of the week. I think you want to go back and listen, enjoy it again. I can't listen to that one enough. So positive. All right, my thanks to all of our guests for joining us on the program today, but I'm not done yet. One more hour to come. Hour 3 kicks off with the TwinSpires Triple Play and Vance Hanson in just a few moments. That's next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. Hour 3 coming up next on HRRN.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Midnight Bisou taking up the lead with a 16th to go. Moving away from Steph being Steph and win the war. Midnight Bisou. Midnight Bisou scores by 4 lengths.
Nyquist at the top of the stretch is the leader. Exaggerator puts a stern test to him, and Denman's Call is running on very nicely, but with 1/8 of a mile to go, Nyquist is still under a hand ride. Exaggerator keeps trying him, but he cannot go with Nyquist, and the champ is back in fine fashion. Nyquist takes the San Vicente.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
And they cut for the wire. Over Deliver and Fergo Lynch, and from the outside, win. And now win. Puts them away and does it so impressively. It's win in front and going away very sharp in the Pasco.
Still many chances here. Shirali up for a fight right alongside Nacho Papa. The classy Sham Rocket has 2 lengths to raise with less than 1/8 to raise it as they come to the final 16th. Here comes Sham Rocket on the outside. Sham Rocket at Shirali. Sham Rocket to the lead. Sham Rocket wins the Sunshine Classic.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Gotta love that old school Richard Grunder call from Tampa Bay Downs, huh? Win. Pasco Stakes. Of course, the Pasco Stakes didn't fill for Saturday, but that's okay. We'll see some Derby horses in action coming up soon enough. And welcome back to the Equine Forum, Hour 3. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you on this Saturday morning. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the program, you missed a lot. We have covered a lot of ground already, plenty more to come. If you missed any portion, head back to the website, horseracingradio.net. Listen to the podcast whenever you get some time, and you can do that too on any podcast platform. So wherever you listen to your podcast, type in Horse Racing Radio Network and follow along with us each and every week. Vance Hanson is going to kick things off for us momentarily. We do this every week for you, the TwinSpires Triple Play. He will give you 3 races to watch and wager on with TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History coming up at 10:20. That's a wonderful story about Diane Crump. We remembered her on this program last week after her passing. Kurt remembers her for you here this morning. And then at 10:30, Dale and Tim, I Ask, They Answer. We'll talk about some of the hottest topics in the sport today. And we're going to ask Dale to weigh in on some of the Eclipse Award categories. Tim and I both have a vote. Dale does not. But we're going to give him a vote on the show here this morning, so I think you'll enjoy that. So stay tuned. But we kick things off as we do every Single Saturday morning, Hour 3 begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Glad to be with you again. And
Happy New Year. Looking forward to more winners coming up in the new year.
Yes, looking forward to getting it started hot and ready here.
Yeah, no pressure, Vance. I didn't mean to set it up like that for you.
No pressure to start. The year's long.
Well, listen, we're going to focus on a couple of maiden races, a couple of turf races. I love the way you've kind of structured these 3 races today. And I'll remind listeners, when they go to TwinSpires to place their wagers, there is no specific TwinSpires Triple Play wager, but every Saturday morning on the show, we choose 3 races, or you choose 3 races, and we get to walk through them, and people can bet them any way they like based on the information that you're giving them. The first one you've chosen is race 4 at the fairgrounds. That's a maiden special weight race, purse of $54,000, 1 mile on the turf. Post time 3:15 Eastern, so 2:15 locally in New Orleans. Full field of 11 plus a bunch of also eligibles. Should be a good one. How'd you see the 4th race?
Yeah, there's a strong-looking favorite in here, number 8, Ocala Gala for Cherie DeVoe, is placed in both of her starts to date. But I'm going to go with number 5, Champagne Party, for the hot Joe Sharp barn, who's clicking at 25% so far this meet. Champagne Party, owned by Mike Rapoli, debuted at Gulfstream last fall, even 4th in that race, and then was transferred from Pletcher to Joe Sharp. Debuted at Fairgrounds sprinting, drew the rail, which I think can be kind of a tricky post position for inexperienced horses, and she kind of sat off of a very hot pace and weakened late, going 5.5 furlongs, and that race was won by a next out allowance winner. So it was a pretty tough field. I don't think sprinting is necessarily what she wants to do. I think she'd be more apt to appreciate the step back up to 2 turns today. And I looked at her pedigree. She has a couple of graded stakes winners in her pedigree, both at distances of like 6.5 furlongs and beyond. So I think Champagne Party is going to get a lot of usefulness out of that local prep, and I like her stretching back out again and getting off of the inside.
Yeah, I think so. You look at that pedigree, you see Not This Time, who is by Giants Causeway. Then you see a Broken Vow mare. That is a pedigree that screams 2 turns long on the grass. You're right, sprinting doesn't appear to be what she's really going to be bred to do.
Yeah, and the dam has produced Fantastic Again, who won a grade 3 on the synthetic in Canada, but also placed 2nd in the Shoemaker Mile at Santa Anita. And then another one, Mucho Del Oro, won the Daytona Stakes out at Santa Anita and the San Simeon as well. So, I think definitely she acted, I think, a little bit better going 2 turns than 1 turn last time, and I think this stretch back out with Paco retaining the mount looks like a pretty good angle.
It's also interesting you would pick Champagne Party because she was bred by Three Chimneys Farm, and earlier in the program, in the first hour of the show, I talked with Case Clay, and most people will recognize that name synonymous with Three Chimneys. He and his family were involved in the ownership of that farm until they sold it in 2014. Case stayed on board to help with that transition for many, many years afterwards. But he joined me in the first hour, talked about Commandment, who is with Wathnan Racing now, and Case had a role in picking that horse out and making that purchase. So I just think there's a lot of ties here to what we've been talking about earlier in the program. Maybe that's a little Swami angle for our listeners too.
Yeah, sounds good, and it's great that Three Chimneys continues to be a huge player in the game.
Yeah, it certainly is. And how about Joe Sharp? You mentioned the red-hot Joe Sharp. He gets to New Orleans, and things just go to another level for him.
Yeah, 16 winners from his first 64 starters, and of course he had a great season last year winning at a 20% clip. So, yeah. And, that makes the 8-1 morning line on Champagne Party even more appealing if you got a hot barn backing that horse up.
All right, so that's number 5 in race number 4 at the fairgrounds today. Champagne Party, the top pick for Vance Hanson to kick off this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance, the next 2 races you've chosen both come from Tampa Bay Downs. And the first one, race 9, another maiden special weight race. This one, though, on the dirt, sprinters going 6 furlongs. They are 3-year-old fillies. Tell me more about that race. Why'd you choose that one?
Yeah, it looks very tricky on paper. There's a few experienced horses in the field, but none of them have really stood out so far, and there's a lot of first-time starters. I was kind of looking for, among the first-time starters, kind of looking at their pedigrees, hoping to find one that I think that could be relatively precocious, and I landed on number 3, Adios Tootsie, for trainer Michael Yates. It's a homebred owned by Shady Brook Farm out of Florida. She's by Cajun Breeze, 16% first-time starter, and this is the first foal out of the dam, Adios Trippy, who she didn't win herself first time out, but she wound up winning in a dead heat the Gasparilla Stakes at Tampa Bay Downs during an abbreviated career. So I thought that kind of was an interesting angle. She has shown some decent works at Gulfstream and over the Tampa surface, and Yates and the jockey Golobruzuk, I'm not sure if that's the correct pronunciation, but they've they've started a couple of horses already since the 1st of January and about run the rods in a couple of races. So taking a shot with Adios Tootsie, hoping she can be a little precocious out of the gate like her mama was.
Vance, I would have just gone with Siggy.
All right, sounds good. Very good. Yep. I did look up at Siggy and hasn't won a race in about a decade. Kind of curtailed the riding career a little bit, but has been riding some live horses of late.
Yeah, 5-1 on Adios Tootsie, race 9 at Tampa. Pretty good value there. All right, Vance, one more to talk about. Race number 10 at Tampa Bay Downs. Another maiden special weight race, but this one back on the turf, mile and a 16th, post time 5:09 Eastern. Who wins the 10th race at Tampa Bay?
I went to the number 1, the Palace Girl, for Will Walden, making her 3rd lifetime start. She debuted way back in October of 2024 in Ireland and ran a very good second to Giselle, who is a Coolmore horse who went on to win the Lingfield Oaks trial last year. We didn't see her again until she was imported to America, wound up in the Walden barn, and she debuted for the barn last October at Keeneland, was pretty well favored in that race, but showed absolutely nothing out of the gate after, and started slow, made no impact whatsoever. I have to think this filly has got a lot more talent than what we initially saw of her at Keeneland last fall. She adds blinkers here. Seems to be working fairly well down at Palmettos, so I'm willing to give her another shot here, and she definitely won't be favored in this race. We got a strong Chad Brown filly with some back class. We've got Pop Art for the hot Tom Proctor barn coming off a strong second place finish, so I think we're going to get much better odds than 7-2 on the Palace Girl here.
Breaking from that inside post, going a mile and a 16th on the grass at Tampa Bay Downs. There was a long run into that first turn. They start way down the top of the stretch. And I would imagine because of that, the inside post position really shouldn't be a factor.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe so. And I think based on this filly's initial start at the Curragh, she placed herself kind of in the mid-pack and stuff. So, yeah, I would say the one post should not be a problem.
7-2 on the morning line. You said maybe we get even a little bit better than that, Vance. We drift up a little bit. How do you like to play a race like this where you have obviously maidens? None of these horses have won. We're still learning about some of these horses, but now you have a horse that's going to offer good value as your top pick. Do you just focus on that horse, or do you tie that horse up in some exactas, trifectas? How do you approach it?
Yeah, and for this particular race, I think at most 3 or 4 horses stand out. So, yeah, if I like this horse for the win, I'm going to bet it to win, but I'd also throw some of the other win contenders that I think are in this field and put them underneath an exactas for sure.
Who are the other horses that look like they could have an impact?
Well, as the 2 I mentioned, Chad Brown, Celtic Motif, still a maiden after 7 starts, but is actually Group 3 placed as a 2-year-old Pop Art for Tom Proctor. And I think Graham Motion's Import Bronte, with 3 consecutive second-place finishes in England last summer, also looks pretty solid.
All right, Vance, let's recap the triple play this week. Race 4 at the Fairgrounds, number 5, Champagne Party, your top pick, 8-1. Then we go to Tampa Bay Downs for the next 2. Race 9 at Tampa, you'll take number 3, Adios Tootsie, 5-1 on the morning line. Race 10 at Tampa, number 1, The Palace Girl, 7-2 on the morning line. So good value in all 3 selections, my friend.
Yes, let's hope one or more cross the wire for everyone.
Now they just have to run.
Started real fast. That's right.
Yeah, they just have to run well at those good prices. But it's worth a shot when you can get value like that. Vance, what's happening at Briss at TwinSpires this weekend as we kick off the new year?
Well, we do have a promotion for bettors on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. It's an odds boost. You get a 15% odds boost on any winning single horse win wagers up to $25. And also, I'll bring up our tournaments. We're running daily tournaments at TwinSpires. If you've thought about getting into the online tournament game for 2026, check out all the ones that we're having at TwinSpires on a daily basis. And there's also plenty of qualifiers for the National Handicapping Championship and the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge.
Yeah, I've done some interviews with Darren Zaccali from TwinSpires talking about the tournaments and playing in some of those contests. And Vance, that's a platform that just continues to grow with TwinSpires.
Yes, it is. We started it last year, and it's really taken off really well and gotten a lot of support. And I think it's just a great addition to the players that we have at TwinSpires that we offer these kind of opportunities.
Vance Hanson with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Don't forget you can bet each of those races any way you like. Just make sure you're doing it with TwinSpires. Vance, appreciate it, buddy. Good luck with those 3 selections and all the races you're going to play this weekend.
Thanks, Mike. Good talking with you.
Good talking to you as well. Vance Hanson, Triple Play, brought to you by TwinSpires every single week. Kurt Becker is going to take you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History in the next segment, and that's a wonderful story told by Kurt only the way Kurt Becker can weave a story together. You're going to hear the story of Diane Crump, whom we remembered on this program last Saturday with Donna Brothers. This is going to be fantastic. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Dale and Tim still to come, 10:30 Eastern. But if you missed it in the first 2 hours of the program, your Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question. Here it is. What is the name of the 2005 film in which a zebra competes in a race at Turfway Park, and what actor provides the voice of the zebra? Get your mojo working. Try to figure that one out. I think the name of the movie is quite obvious. At least it was for me. The actor is what makes this really impossible. Very challenging question from our producer, Lee Delapina, and appreciate Mojo Racing and all their support of our impossible trivia question every week. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History, coming up next here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in heart of bluegrass country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. She was the first female jockey ever to ride in a pari-mutuel race in the United States, and she was the first ever to ride in the Kentucky Derby. She died recently at the age of 77, prompting this look back on her life and career. Her name was Diane Crump. Born in Connecticut in 1948 and relocating to Florida with her parents as a child, Crump grew up in Oldsmar near Tampa. She loved horses from childhood, taking riding lessons as soon as age 7 and saving money from a paper route to buy her first horse on her 12th birthday. Crump soon found work with trainer A.C. Chestnut, mucking stalls and eventually serving as an exercise rider. By age 17, she was overseeing the stable during the summer at Florida Downs, while Chestnut was racing a string of horses in the north. In the spring of 1965, Crump went to Gulfstream Park with Nelson Zambito's Lake Magdalene farm stable to work as an exercise rider and groom. She completed her high school education during that time by attending night school in Miami to earn her diploma. In February of 1969, some 10 years after she got her first job at the racetrack, Crump went to the post at Hialeah Park to become the first female jockey ever to ride in a parimutuel race in the United States. There was controversy. A few jockeys refused to ride in that race, and a security escort was provided Crump for her walk to the paddock. But she made it onto the track and finished 10th that day aboard 48-to-1 shot bridle and bit for trainer Tommy Calumet. Crump got her first win less than a month later, guiding the same horse to victory at her home track in Tampa to become the first female jockey ever to win a parimutuel race in Florida. On March 20th, she went to Gulfstream and became the first woman in U.S. history to score a riding double. The milestones continued for Crump throughout 1969, including first woman to ride in Kentucky, first to ride and win at Churchill Downs, and first to ride and win at Atlantic City Racecourse in New Jersey. The following year, on May 2nd, 1970, Crump would become the first woman ever to ride in the Kentucky Derby, finishing 15th aboard Fathom, a horse trained by her future husband, Don Devine. Often overlooked is the fact Crump won the first race on the card that day, rallying down the stretch to take a maiden special weight by a nose with Right Sean for trainer A.H. Burns. Crump continued to ride with success long after her appearance in the Derby, returning to Louisville on June 17, 1976, to become the first woman ever to score a riding double at Churchill Downs. A few years later, in July of 1981, she would win the feature at Ellis Park 4 times in the span of 5 days. During her career, Crump won feature races at Gulfstream Park, Florida Downs, Rockingham Park, Fairgrounds, Churchill Downs, Ellis Park, and Latonia. She won 13 races during the spring meet at Churchill in 1982, and she rode to a track record at 6 furlongs on opening day at Ellis that same year. Throughout her time as a journeyman, Crump seemed to find her greatest satisfaction in the sport. As a headline of the Tampa Tribune declared in 1974, "Spotlight dims, but future brightens for Crump." She once said, "This is what I've always wanted to do. Ride some, train some, and not have a lot of rigmarole all the time." Described as pert and plain-spoken, Crump had a way of offering simple gems of truth. When asked about the pressure of riding in the Kentucky Derby, for example, she replied, "It's hard to win that race no matter who you are. Several top men jockeys still haven't won it." When responding to critics who said women weren't smart enough or strong enough to win races, she said, "You don't need strength or great genius. All you need is good common sense and horsemanship. That's all it's ever been and all it will ever be." As one turf rider put it, Crump was never a flag waver for women's rights, and Crump likely agreed. For her, the right to ride in parimutuel races was more a matter of logic, saying, quote, "I break horses, gallop horses, walk horses, bathe horses, rub horses, feed horses, and bandage horses. When I've done all that work in the mornings, why should I step aside and let someone else ride them in the afternoons?" End quote. Crump also had a sense of humor. She once recalled how during her days as an apprentice, a railbird had heckled her by telling her she should go home and do the dishes. As she reflected on such insults, she joked, "The crowd still holler, but it's the same things the guys hear. I guess we have come a long way." On another occasion, Crump stated that male jockeys were generally accepting of her, but owners and trainers were more skeptical. Once again, making use of her sense of humor, she said, "Everybody accepts you as long as you're on somebody else's horse." When asked to rate herself as a jockey, Crump said, quote, "I don't rate myself. I ride mostly for my husband, and I know all of our horses. I work with them all day, and I've developed all of them since they were babies. That's why riding them in the afternoon means so much to me." End quote. We remember Diane Crump. More than just an answer to a trivia question, she chased a dream and earned her place in racing history. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history, presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Thanks, Kurt, for that story. If you missed it, go to our website to check out the podcast of every Stroll Through Racing History. And don't forget while you're there to check out our Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton and sign up for our email newsletters to stay up to date on the latest news and guests set to appear on our shows. Dale and Tim coming up next with I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
A Keeneland session topper from the first crop of the all-conquering Vekoma. Jonathan's Way was touted by purchaser John Moynihan as, quote, one of the best-looking horses you'll ever lay your eyes on. Out of an undefeated stakes-winning juvenile daughter of Indian Charlie, Jonathan's Way is a complete outcross through his first 5 generations and comes from the immediate female family of the great Dynaformer. Brilliantly talented with the pedigree and physical makeup to be commercial dynamite. Jonathan's Way, a future stallion star standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
And Good Cheer is rallying now. Here comes Good Cheer on the far outside. She's coming on 5 or 6 wide. She's under a drive as they hit the top of the stretch. Lucara heads for home in front. Tenuous lead. Tenma trying to get by. Good Cheer continues. A sustained rally. And Bless the Broken is coming. And Drexel Hill is too. There's a 16th to catch Good Cheer. She's clear by 2.5. Drexel Hill runs up into second. Bless the Broken is third, but she's the toast of Kentucky. Good Cheer wins the Oaks by nearly 3. Drexel Hill was second, Bless the Broken was third, and Tenma was fourth.
Another great call from Travis Stone. Good Cheer set atop the 3-year-old filly division following that win in the Kentucky Oaks. But is that victory enough to see her walk away with the Eclipse Award in a wide-open division? Dale and Tim weigh in on this year's Eclipse Award finalists. Plus, we take a closer look at the choices for the NTRA Moment of the Year and tell you which 3-year-old stakes winner was most impressive a week ago. All of that and much, much more straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin. All presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. And all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
All right, Dale Romans is in Florida. Tim Wilkin is in New York. I am in the middle in Kentucky, and we are ready to roll for the next 30 minutes or so on this week's I Ask, They Answer. And we kick it off with a question from Shane in North Carolina. And he wants to know, guys, which of the following 3-year-old performances last weekend moved the needle most for you? Was it Strategic Risk in this victory in the Smarty Jones?
Strategic Risk on the throat latch of Scarship as they round the far turn. Sleeping on Freedom is sent hard third, and he's a length and a half behind the top pair who are right together. Oscar's Hope is given way with Baytown Dreamer. Rancho Santa Fe not picking up his feet. Universe is dead last as they come down the lane, and Strategic Risk just pounced on the early leader and kicks away. Strategic Risk by 4 hitting the 16th pole. Silent Tactic
Tactic coming on late, and Baytown Dreamer at 84-1 is third. It's Strategic Risk and the Smarty Jones. He won for fun. Second home, Silent Tactic. It's a 1-2 finish for John Oxley and Mark Cassie. Baytown Dreamer checked in third.
No, that was a good effort. Maybe you guys feel like it was My World in that win in the Jerome.
So now the top two start to sprint away. It's My World to the outside. Balboa is a neck in front. After the Trouble Freedoms, Echo is in third. Enforced Agenda now starts to warm to the task, but has 5 to make up as they reach the top of the stretch. Balboa is the leader. Balboa kicks on. Here's My World continuing to chase. Balboa is not cutting the margin yet. And now My World is in pursuit, and Balboa has a furlong left to get, but My World is clearly in pursuit. My World to the outside. These two nose and they brush. My World, Balboa. My World wins the Jerome. My World won it over Balboa. Enforced Agenda in 1 minute 38-4.
And the final 3-year-old stakes race a week ago, Commandment with this effort in the Mucho Macho Man.
They're a quarter of a mile from home. Epic Summer and Thunderchuck now getting into the clear. Commandment, he just bowled his way through now, and he's on to challenge with a quarter of a mile remaining, and Commandment has now made a clear lead. They're an eighth of a mile from home, but this one's over under light handling. Here's the son of Into Mischief. Here's Commandment for trainer Brad Cox, living up to the odds-on hype. Commandment draws away to win the Mucho Macho Man by 5 lengths. Roger that Dana comes up with a giant try for second ahead of Thunderchuck third. Max Capacity's fourth in 138. Head on.
All right, Timmy, going to start with you on this one. Shane in North Carolina wants to know if you had to bet on one of those 3 horses that we just listened to be relevant on Kentucky Derby Day, which one would it be and why?
Well, I'm going to start with saying the ones I wouldn't bet on. I'm going to start with Strategic Risk, who was impressive in the Smarty Jones. But he's a Florida bred. Florida breds don't win the Kentucky Derby. The last one to do it was Silver Charm in 97. So I'm not betting on him. The Jerome only had 4 horses in it. My World was impressive. Balboa ran a pretty good race in defeat, but that race didn't push my needle too much. I'm going with Commandment in the Mucho Macho Man, which was the only race that wasn't a points race. But, you know, winning by 6 3/4 lengths for Brad Cox, who also trains My World. And Brad has been on record as saying the Commandment was one of his better 2-year-olds last year. Thinks the horse has a lot of upside, and we'll see what happens as he moves on in the road to the Kentucky Derby. I guess the Holy Bull would be next for him. But he just looks like he looks like he might be a horse that can check all the boxes for Brad heading towards Kentucky on the first Saturday in May. So he would be my choice.
Yeah, I agree with you. Commandment's lived up to his 2-year-old hype. He's got the pedigree. He's got the looks. He was beautiful in the paddock. And, it was an oddly run race. The pace didn't show up like he thought it would, and he still rolled around like they were tied to a post. So Commandment impressed me.
Dale, you had a horse in that race. You finished behind Commandment. Is that was a one-turn race, a one-turn mile. Any concerns at this point in the season that you have a horse that hasn't proven around 2 turns yet, and you're picking him to be the horse that will be relevant on Derby Day?
No, I'm just picking against those other 2, and it's. But I do think I don't think it's a big deal. I think he's going to get plenty of opportunity to go around 2 turns. He'll get a couple of starts, and I didn't see anything to show me that he couldn't get the distance.
Was he the horse going into that race that you feared?
Oh, yeah, you had to. I mean, he was short money on the board, and, I had heard about him up in Kentucky about him before he ever ran, and he lived up to his hype. His first race, I think it was a little disappointing, but he's put 2 big ones back-to-back, and he could be as good as anybody.
You said he looked the part, too, huh, Dale?
He did. He looked like it. He looked like a racehorse. He looked like a Derby horse. He had that air about him. He's got good connections. He's got he's the total package. So what's not to like about him?
Shane, appreciate that question, and it was fun to look back on those races, hear those calls again. So many talented announcers out there, and those are 3 really good ones. Our second topic comes from Tony in Northern Ohio. And, guys, this is a question about the business side of racing. I really like this topic. Tony is an owner on the Ohio circuit, and he's concerned about the way declining foal crop numbers lead to less horses available for entries and eventually smaller field sizes. He also points out that in states like Ohio and Pennsylvania, for example, tracks often run at the same time and compete for the same horse population. So Tony asks if more states should look at creating a true circuit like we see in New York and California, where only one track in the state is racing at any given time. Do you like the idea, and would that lead to bigger field sizes and eventually increase handle? Dale, what do you think?
First of all, don't forget about Finger Lakes. So there's 2 tracks running in New York a lot. So yeah, that's a big issue. I mean, it's just several years ago, but I was going through it all. There was like 3 races within 10 days, 1.5 miles on the turf stakes. I mean, how many 1.5 mile turf horses do we have in the country? And it would benefit the game if all the states would work together. To get to a micro level of it, it's not as much as running against each other every race day. It's how the condition books fall out. And if the racing secretaries could work together and write their condition books where horses could interchange back and forth, and they're not the same races on top of one another all the time, you could still have 2 places. It gets a long ways from here to Tampa, and there's a big population there. But there definitely could be a lot of more strategy put into it nationwide instead of just racetrack by racetrack. It's been talked about a lot, too. I mean, it's a good topic, and it's not a new idea, but it just doesn't seem like the states all want to work together ever. And
it's interesting.
Really Dale, do you find it would benefit them?
Do you find that racing secretaries don't often want to work with other racing secretaries at racetracks in the same state?
I don't think they ever even try. I don't think it's ever discussed. I think at the management level, and I've been in some meetings where we've talked about it, but that single thing, working together, racetrack to racetrack, secretary to secretary, would do as much for racing as anything we could do that would be an immediate, quick, easy fix. I don't know why it's never come about or why they haven't done it.
To do that, like take Pennsylvania, for example. I mean, Parks and Penn National basically run year-round, right? And I think Presque Isle goes May to October. With the horse population in Parks and Penn National, those are 2 different sets of horses and stables. And would if they went to a circuit, would it be able to work for some of those smaller outfits? Would they be able to survive going to another circuit? Would they even be barn space? I don't know. Anything that would help the game, I would be for. I don't know if it would work, though, in the smaller markets. I just don't think it would.
You know, like Kentucky, we only run 1 track at a time in the state.
Yeah.
We've overlapped a couple of, years past. We've overlapped some, but not much. But you're still competing with racetracks like Horseshoe, Indiana, that's running 2 hours up the road, or Belterra is running for that. Those are the lower division horses, but it's still competition. But if they would write their condition books in sequence with one another, those tracks that are close together, it would make a big difference.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, Dale. You're always going to have competition from racetracks outside of the state in most of these areas. But I think what Tony's trying to say is, hey, why are we competing with our racetracks in the same state? Shouldn't we have a circuit where we can kind of move around and have horses go from one track to the next like they do in New York, for example?
Yeah, but again, in New York, they still have Finger Lakes. It's running against Saratoga. But it's a different population of horses.
Yep.
Like if you run at Belterra or Thistle Downs, I mean, you're talking about a long space. There's 3.5 hour drive to get between one and the other. But if they work their condition books together. The racing secretaries work, say, I want to have maiden races this day, this day, this day. You have them this day, this day, this day. They can divide up. I think that would help as much as not even competing with one another.
But if they had a circuit, then just one would be running it at one time, correct?
Yeah, but you still got to cross state lines, which is a problem. I mean, Belterra and Indiana Grand compete for the same horses, and they're across state lines, but they're still only less than 2 hours apart. Or those two people could get together and work on their book and not have the same races the same day.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, Dale. I like that. Maybe we'll hear more about that moving forward after we've talked about it here on the program. Who knows where that goes, but I think it's a great idea. And, Tony, we appreciate the question. That's a really good topic. Moving on. Time to say hello to our friend Nick Zito, as we do every week, and Dale and Tim get to tell me if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
All right, guys, here you go. The NTRA has released 11 choices for the 2025 Moment of the Year, which now comes down to a voting process to determine the winner. 9 of the 11 nominations are races from last year. The 2 choices that don't involve a race are Flavien Prat setting a NYRA single card record when he won 7 races, 7 and 10 mounts on closing day of the Belmont at the Big A meet. The other one is the legendary D. Wayne Lucas, who passed away at the age of 89 last year. With all due respect to some of the great races that we witnessed last year, I say that the true moment of the year in 2025 is the passing of one of the all-time great trainers. So, guys, are you with me or against me on this one? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
Tim, what do you think?
I'm going to go wrong on this one, and I'll tell you why. I say the NTRA Moment of the Year is something that should be celebrated, a moment in the past year. When D. Wayne Lucas passing was one of the saddest moments of the year, to me anyway, and I think a lot of other people. I mean, he was an icon of the game, and I think the NTRA Moment of the Year should be one that is celebrated, something that, is a positive thing for racing. When Wayne Lucas passed away, it was sad. It was just sad to me, and he was such an icon of the game and all the things he did. I don't think that should be celebrated as the moment of the year. I mean, if there was a category of saddest moment of the year, it would win hands down. But I think the NTRA Moment of the Year should be one that celebrated a great moment, a happy moment. And I didn't see that D. Wayne's passing as a happy moment at all.
Timmy, don't you think there should be a differentiation between the race of the year and the moment of the year, the most significant moment of the year?
Sure. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's but when you have people passing away, that's always going to be in its own kind of category. They should have the races of the year, and then if you want to mention the people that passed away in their own thing, that's fine. But I just don't think that should be part of the moment of the year of the passing of a great like D. Wayne Lucas.
Dale, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to say you're wrong, because Wayne was greater than any one moment, and he should have his own specific category. It definitely was the biggest news of the year. It was a sad day, but we should celebrate that he got to be with us for 90 years and teach us all how to be better at our sport and our game, especially guys like myself that followed behind him. And he's much bigger than any one moment. And so I want to agree with him on this one.
Yeah, interesting. I always struggle with this particular award, this voting process, because I still think that you either vote for the race of the year or you vote for the moment of the year, the moment that defined 2025. Was it Sovereignty winning the Derby and then the Belmont and the Travers? Okay, maybe. But I think that the moment that you're going to remember about 2025 is the passing of D. Wayne Lucas, and to me, that's the moment of the year.
No, I disagree. I can see that. I can see your point, but I disagree too. I think that Wayne is much bigger than any one moment.
Yeah, he certainly was. And we're going to bring Nick Zito back for that segment next Saturday morning here on I Ask, They Answer. But we do have one more topic to get to. And, Dale, we thought this would be fun. Tim and I both get a vote for the Eclipse Awards. You do not. So Timmy said to me last weekend when we were reflecting upon some of our Eclipse Award votes, he said, hey, why don't we ask Dale who he would vote for in these categories? So, Dale, this morning here on HRN, you get a vote for these Eclipse Award categories. And we're not going to do the 3-year-old male because that's going to be sovereignty. We know Ted Naffy is going to be champion 2-year-old male, but there were several other categories that were more wide open. So, Dale, here you go. Who are you taking in these different categories? The 3-year-old filly finalists came down to Good Cheer, the Kentucky Oaks winner, Nitrogen for Mark Casse, who had a tremendous year, and She's So Spicy, who was really good in the Breeders' Cup. What do you think of those three? Who gets your vote?
It's a tight one here, but I'm going to go with Good Cheer. First of all, you set me up for somebody to be mad at me on answering these questions. Somebody's going to say tomorrow, what were you talking about? What are you thinking about when I'm out there after they listen to the show? But I'm going to put a little more weight on the Kentucky Derby and the way she did it, and I want to go Good Cheer for that one. Kentucky
Well,
Oaks.
We'll cover you. Timmy and I both went with Nitrogen.
Okay.
I went with Nitrogen because, she won 6 of 9. She was second in the distaff, won the Alabama. Actually had a pretty good season on the grass, too. I just thought she was the most consistent one. And the one thing, too, about Good Cheer, as good as she was, and Todd Pletcher always says this, people forget about what her horses did early in the year. It's always a what have you done for me lately kind of thing. I mean, Good Cheer was pretty darn good earlier this year. But for the body of work for the year, I went with Nitrogen.
All right, Dale,
I think at her best,
she
would have been the best filly. If they all went into the race at their best, I think Good Cheer is the best filly.
Okay.
All right, how about this one?
Who's next?
I thought this category. Yeah, I thought this category was wide open, Dale. The older dirt male. Now, and this leads to another question, which I'll get to in a minute, but you have Forever Young, the Japanese horse who wins the Breeders' Cup Classic. You have Nisos and Sierra Leone. Those are the 3 finalists in the older dirt male division. Which one are you going with there?
Well, since I'm playing golf with his trainer next week, I'm going with Forever Young. I know he only ran one race, and that's against everything I've talked about on the show, but I don't want to ride around with the guy speaking Japanese to me telling me how wrong I was. So I'll say Forever Young.
So if you were playing golf with Chad Brown, it would be Sierra Leone.
Well, it could be, yeah. But no, I think Forever Young was the best horse. I mean, it's amazing what he's done. Going all over the world and the races he's run. I know it's in the United States voting, but North America, but he was pretty impressive on the big day.
Dale, should a horse that only starts one time in the U.S. be voted as Eclipse champion?
I've always said no, but this one is a little bit different. I think, yes, he is.
It's only because you're playing golf with the guy.
Right.
Well, that's a big part of it, yeah.
I mean,
if I was training 20 for Rapoli, it'd be his horse.
Well, I was kind of surprised that Fierceness didn't make the top 3, but then again, I did not use Forever Young because of the fact that he only raced the one time here, even though it was the biggest race. The horse I picked was Sierra Leone, and that would get a lot of blowback because he did only win the one race, but he was second in the Classic. I thought Fierceness, with his body of work this year, should have been a finalist. He did win the Pacific Classic, and he was third in the class in the Breeders' Cup Classic behind Sierra Leone. That's why I put Sierra Leone ahead of him.
Yeah, I went with Nisos. The Grade 1 wins combined with his other body of work in 2025 I thought was really impressive. So I thought he was a deserving finalist. How about the older dirt stuff, Dale? You had Scylla, the Breeders' Cup Distaff winner, but that was her only win in 2025. You had Splendora, who was impressive, and then you had Torpedo Anna, our old friend Torpedo Anna, who didn't make it to the Breeders' Cup. How about those 3?
I think it's a tight one, but I'll have to go with Anna. I think, it's their best. All of them running, they're healthiest. She's the best filly of the 3.
I agree with you on that one. I took Torpedo Anna as well.
Yep, me too. Me too. Her overall body of work.
Competition. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Scylla, listen, that one win was dynamite in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, but it was her only win. So I think Torpedo Anna had a better body of work throughout the entire season.
Yeah, if Torpedo Anna is in there and she beats her, then it's a different story.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then you got more of an argument for Scylla.
All right, how about male sprinter, Dale? You had the Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, Ben Tornado. You had Bookham Dano, who was brilliant at Saratoga this year. And then you have Nisos, who made the list of the male sprinters. I didn't vote for any of those three as my winner, but what do you think?
I'll give it to Nisos. I think that he had a great year, good body of work, total body of work. We'll give that one to Nisos.
On the male sprinters? Wow.
Why not?
I think I voted for Bookham Dano.
That's been your horse all along.
Not going to be happy with you.
Huh?
You've always loved Bookham Dano.
I have. I just love the way he shows up every time, and he had those 3 graded stakes wins at Saratoga this summer, and people said, well, he ducked the Breeders' Cup. He was never planning on going to the Breeders' Cup. It wasn't like he found out who was going to be in the Breeders' Cup and they said we're not going. Derek Ryan said back in August that he wasn't going to go to the Breeders' Cup. When Bookham Dano showed up every one of his races. I don't know how you can't give him it. Ben Tornado only had 2 races all year. Didn't start till September. Didn't win the sprint. I mean, I don't know if that's enough. I think Bookham Dano did more.
Timmy, we talked about it on the show last week. I voted for Patch Adams. He didn't even make the list.
I had him 3rd.
Yeah, he didn't even make the top 3 for me, but I was off on that category, I guess. But I wouldn't argue with any of the 3 male sprinters that made the finalist list. How about I'll give you Dale, do you want trainer or you want jockey? We're down to the final 5 minutes. We have to move along and get to you want the top trainer or the top jockey?
Let's go jockey, because that's one that's the most interesting, I think.
Rod Ortiz Jr., Flavian Pratt, or Johnny V?
I'd love to see Johnny win another one at his age, but I think it's Flavian again. I think he goes back to back.
I agree with that. And it was it's by a whisker over IRAD. I mean, if you look at their graded earnings, it's only like $1,000. It's $1,500 separating the two, and that's phenomenal for a year. Flavian got the nod for me because of the 13 grade 1s to 9 for IRAD, and Johnny had 10. I mean, Johnny had a great year.
Yep. Had a great year. He really did well.
I wanted to put Johnny on top.
All 3 of them did well.
I wanted to put Johnny on top of that list. I went with Flavian over Johnny and then Erod 3rd. But what Johnny did this past year, we talked about this many times on this show, guys. Yeah. That was just fantastic.
He just gets better with age, doesn't he?
He's as good as he ever was. Let's say that. I don't think he wants to ride 7 or 8 a day, but when he's on in a grade 1, he's as good as he's ever was, and he was as good as anybody's ever been.
If you were playing golf with him today, would he be your choice?
Yeah, he would. Or if he was taking me on his boat. He's got a big old yacht he could take me on. If he was doing that, he'd be my choice.
I love it. All right, Dale, there you go. You got to vote to the Eclipse Awards, and let's see how you make out when the awards are given out in just a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Would Dale win
our tomorrow with everybody yelling at me? Huh?
Would Dale win our Eclipse Award because he won the showdown?
Hands down.
I should, yeah. Hands down.
I guess you have to.
He's our handicapper of the year. He hates handicapping.
Yeah. Believe me, if I leave the show, it's like Henry Winkler left Happy Days. Good luck to you.
Did he just compare himself to the Fonz?
To the Fonz.
Guys, we got to move on. It's time for our final point of the week, and then we got to wrap up the show. But I'm going to remind our listeners before we get to that if they have a question or a topic they want you to debate or answer for them, they can send it to us, Mike@horseracingradio.net, or they can post it on our social media pages. We will get it worked into the show for them. Final point of the week. Tim Wilkin, kick us off.
Racing lost a true gentleman a couple days ago with the passing of Leo O'Brien, who was a mainstay in New York for several years and the trainer of 4-Star Dave, the popular gelding who won a race at Saratoga 8 straight years. Leo was such a character, a joy to be around at his barn. And if you didn't know Leo, you really missed out. Really a good man from a good family, and condolences to the O'Briens.
Also, the sire of Leona Velasquez. So,
yeah,
the wife of Johnny. He was a good man, Leo. He was him and his brother both, Colin. They were mainstays in New York.
Yep.
So, but my final point is, this week where Elliott Walton's leaving Windstar Farm, and he should be very proud of all the work that he did there and the way he built that farm to be a powerhouse in horse racing. And good luck to him and whatever he's doing afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the classy guys in racing. He's a good guy. He'll be missed at Windstar. Jerry Duffy going to take over. He's fantastic, too, but he's got big shoes to fill with Elliott. And guys, by the way, speaking of Leo O'Brien, and Dale, you mentioned Leona, Johnny's wife. Also, his son Keith O'Brien does a lot of voiceover work for us here on the network. At least he did at one time. Really talented voice actor. Our condolences going out to him and to Leona and to Johnny and to everybody who knew and loved Leo O'Brien.
Here, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Guys, appreciate it. We're going to do this all over again next Saturday morning, and enjoy the weekend. Good luck at the races.
All right, guys. Have a good golf game, Dale.
Yeah, thanks, bud.
See you later.
I Ask the Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more, including the answer to this week's Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question next on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woo-hoo. Gnarly move, Dad. Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Kelsey Grammer. When military service members head into battle, none are expected to face the enemy alone, but many return home and become isolated as they struggle with the visible and invisible wounds of war. It can be difficult knowing how to overcome that challenge and rekindle bonds similar to those formed in the military. Wounded Warrior Project supports these injured veterans through their recoveries by connecting them with fellow warriors and their communities. No one should fight this battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Did you know you might be part of the 75% of Americans who think they waste less food than they actually do? Americans toss up more than $382 billion worth of food, costing an average family of 4 nearly $3,000 annually, and costing our planet even more in wasted resources. But did you also know nearly half of all food waste occurs at the household level, which means there's a lot we can do to reduce all this waste, to help your wallet and the planet. Eating leftovers is great, but things like freezing food that you can't eat right away, donating surplus food within your community, and better understanding food date labels can have an even bigger impact. To learn more, visit World Wildlife Fund at wwf.earth/food waste and spread the word that food should never be trash.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Mike Penna, Darren in the backstretch, winding down this edition of the Equine Forum. Still to come, the answer to this week's Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question. But first, I want to remind you that new stallions of 2026 are featured in the January issue of Blood Horse, which is out now. That issue also includes training the progeny of Twirling Candy, and Arthur Hancock III's acumen as a horseman is but just one part of his life story. That's a cool story there on Arthur Hancock. And around the globe, the horses deliver the goods in 2025 and a year-end recap and more. You can become a subscriber for exclusive content for as little as $59 a year, or purchase a single issue at bloodhorse.com. Well, as I mentioned, you've been trying to get your mojo working throughout the show, trying to answer the Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question. Lee Delapina has the answer. Lee?
Thank you, Mike. What's the name of the 2005 film in which a zebra competes in a race at Turfway Park, and what actor portrays the voice of the zebra? Well, that, of course, was Racing Stripes, starring Malcolm in the Middle's Frankie Muniz as Stripes the zebra. Thanks to Mojo Racing Partners for this week's Impossible Trivia question. Get your mojo working at mojoracingpartners.com.
Wow. The movie part, as I said earlier, was easy. I think most of us could guess that. The actor part, that was tough. Well done. And I hope you got it right. We'll be back with another Mojo Racing Impossible Trivia question on the show next Saturday morning. Really fun segment with Dale and Tim, giving Dale a chance to vote for the Eclipse Awards. But that back to the right or wrong and that NTRA moment of the year, I really think, and I say this every year when the list of candidates comes out, I think you have to differentiate here, especially when it's a significant moment like the passing of a legend, D. Wayne Lucas. You have to differentiate between the race of the year and the actual moment of the year, the one that is going to define the previous season. And I think, to me, it's the loss of one of the greatest to ever do it, D. Wayne Lucas. To me, that one gets my vote for moment of the year. You can go to ntra.com to learn more. All right. My thanks to our producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studios for all the hard work, and Chauncey for handling all of our social media again here this morning. To all of you for tuning in, to all of our guests for making this show possible. If you missed it, check out the podcast on our site and your favorite podcast platform. We'll talk to you next week. I'm Mike Penna. Let's go, Steelers.